My fiancé orchestrated my fall from the horse with his own hands, solely to ensure that the daughter of his esteemed mentor could claim the top prize in the hunt. Upon awakening, the princess of Huainan grasped my hand, weeping as she lamented, "My dear child, this marriage. I fear it may be a burden upon you." I gazed at the air behind her, whose expression was laden with guilt, and suddenly broke into a sweet smile, inquiring, "Pray tell, who is this lady? And who might this young gentleman be?" 3 months later, the newly appointed scholar arrived clad in red, riding a white steed, bearing a decree to seek the hand of the legitimate daughter of the Duke's residence. On the night the red veil was lifted, he took my hand and pressed it against his heart, saying, "My lady, do you still remember giving a piece of cake to a beggar in the snow 7 years ago?" My fingertips trembled, yet he chuckled softly. "Fear not, there is ample time in the years to come. I shall repay your kindness in due course." In the royal hunting grounds of spring, where greenery begins to sprout, a faint chill still lingers in the air. The wind rustles through the newly budding leaves, mingling with the crackling sound of hooves trampling last year's dry branches and the distant cheers and encouragements emanating from the stands. Zhou Yurong sits gracefully atop her steed, clad in a vibrant crimson riding outfit that accentuates her snow-white complexion. Her long, obsidian hair is elegantly tied up, adding an air of gallantry. A gentle squeeze of her horse's flank prompts her chestnut steed, chasing the moon, to obediently quicken its pace along the slightly muddy path of the hunting grounds. Today marks the final day of the spring hunt, a pivotal contest for the auspicious jade scepter of the previous dynasty. As the legitimate daughter of the Duke's residence, she has been trained in equestrian skills since childhood. Though she does not possess the competitive spirit of her male counterparts, she believes that to partake is to engage earnestly. Zhou Yurong's gaze drifts ahead, catching sight of a pale yellow figure that flits between the trees, Su Yunhe, the sole daughter of the esteemed tutor of the Crown Prince of Huainan. Recently, she has often been seen in the royal palace, delicate as a flower that requires tender care. Zhou Yurong's eyes inevitably shift to the tall, dark figure further ahead, Zhao Si, her betrothed and the Crown Prince of Huainan. They were betrothed in childhood. While their feelings may not be profound, they regard each other with mutual respect, awaiting their wedding at the year's end. At this moment, he rides protectively near Su Yunhe, displaying a level of tension and focus she has never witnessed before. A sudden pang of bitterness flits through her heart. Zhou Yurong shakes her head, attempting to dispel this unwarranted emotion, and is about to urge her horse forward when chasing the moon suddenly becomes restless. Its hooves anxiously paw at the wet ground, snorting and shaking its head in agitation. Chasing the moon? Zhou Yurong wonders, surprised, as she gently strokes the horse's neck in an attempt to soothe it. This horse was personally chosen by her father, known for its gentle and reliable temperament, and has never behaved so unusually before. From the direction of the stands, she seems to hear her mother's anxious shouts, though indistinct. The change occurs in an instant. Without warning, Chasing the Moon lets out a piercing whinny and suddenly rears up. Zhou Yurong, caught off guard, instinctively tightens the reins to avoid being thrown off.
Wrong air.
This time, she clearly hears Zhao Si's voice, laced with panic. In the blink of an eye, her uncontrollable mount charges wildly toward the low shrubs to the side. Amidst the jostling and spinning world around her, Zhou Yurong catches a glimpse of Zhao Si turning back in response to the commotion. His face, twisted in alarm, reveals a complex mix of emotions, anxiety tinged with something deeper that she cannot yet comprehend, as though he is grappling with a decision, caught between fear and determination. He instinctively pulls on the reins, his arm lifting slightly, yet he does not ride toward her. Rather, he tightens his protective hold over the terrified Su Yunhe. Her heart sinks abruptly, plunging deeper than her physical fall. The next moment, a jarring pain strikes her side as she collides with a hard object, and her forehead strikes a protruding rock, plunging her vision into darkness. The last sensations to invade her consciousness are the earthy smell of the soil, the fresh scent of crushed grass, and a faint, unfamiliar, chilling fragrance. 2. Her awareness slowly gathers amidst waves of dull pain and the strong odor of bitter medicine. Her eyelids feel too heavy to lift, and a buzzing fills her ears, intermingled with muffled sobs and whispers. A throbbing pain shoots through her forehead, and her entire body aches as if it has been disassembled and hastily reassembled, leaving her feeling sore and weighed down. Zhou Yurong struggles to open her eyes, her blurred vision gradually focusing on the familiar azure-hued embroidered canopy of her chamber, where silver threads weave the pattern of entwined lotus vines, faintly shimmering in the dim light. "You're awake. Miss, you're awake," her devoted maid, Yunxiu, exclaims with a tremor of relief, rushing to her bedside. "Miss, how do you feel? Where does it hurt?" The sound of hurried footsteps approaches as her mother, the Dowager Duchess Yu, nearly collapses at the bedside, her well-maintained face streaked with tears. Trembling fingers caress Zhou Yurong's cheek. "My child, thank the heavens, you have finally awakened. You frightened your mother to death." The warmth of her mother's embrace and the familiar fragrance elicit a sting in Zhou Yurong's nose. She parts her lips, yet her throat is too parched to produce sound. Yunxiu quickly proffers a soft cushion to elevate her back and offers her a few sips of warm honey water, alleviating her burning thirst slightly. "Mother," she croaks, her voice weak and hoarse, "what happened to me? At the spring hunt, your horse inexplicably went wild and threw you off." Lady Yu replies, dabbing her tears with a silk handkerchief, her tone filled with dread. "You struck your head and have been unconscious for a whole day. If anything were to happen to you, how could your mother live?" Just then, a maid announces from outside, "Madam, the princess and the young master have come to visit the Mississippi." The beaded curtain rustles, and a gentle chime of jewelry accompanies the faint scent of sandalwood. The Princess of Huainan, dressed in a deep purple brocade robe adorned with peony patterns, strides swiftly to the bedside, her hair piled high, and her demeanor remains dignified. Yet her eyes betray deep concern and regret. She approaches the bed, her eyes reddening before she speaks, grasping Zhou Yurong's hand that rests outside the silk quilt. "Yurong, my child, you have suffered greatly." The princess's hand is warm and soft, yet her grip is tight, trembling slightly. "Look at your little face, so pale. Zhao Si is to blame. He should apologize to you." She shifts aside, and only then does Zhou Yurong notice the figure standing behind her, Zhao Si. Dressed in a light azure brocade robe, his handsome face lacks color, his lips pressed into a pale line, dark circles evident beneath his eyes. His gaze falls upon her forehead, thickly bandaged, then quickly averts, as if the sight burned him. His fingers curl slightly at his sides, his entire being exuding a tension filled with guilt and conflict. All at once, the memories crash back into her mind. The moment before her fall. She recalls catching a glimpse of Zhao Si riding closer, his whip seemingly accidentally and swiftly sweeping across the rear of Chasing the Moon. The complicated look he cast back at her, the muffled, masculine exclamation she heard just before hitting the ground, and the horse doctor, trembling as he reported to her father. The mare's hindquarters show a faint, new injury, as if startled by a sharp object. It dawns on her that the moment of chaos stemmed from guilt. That he halted his horse and lifted his arm not towards her was an instinctual response, the outcome of a final choice. The so-called care for his teacher's daughter, enabling Su Yunha to take the lead, could have led to his fiancé's demise. A coldness suddenly envelopes a part of her heart, chilling her limbs and rendering her fingers icy and numb. This chill wells up in her eyes, yet she forcibly suppresses it. She gazes at the princess's face, filled with concern and regret, listening as she subtly mentions serious injuries, long-term recuperation, and hints at not to delay, and the royal family's unease. Just as her mother's expression shifts, seemingly about to speak, Zhou Yurong suddenly lets out a soft, "eh." Her voice is weak, laced with the hoarseness of awakening and confusion. Yet it successfully halts the princess's unfinished words, drawing every gaze toward her. Zhou Yurong opens her eyes wide, clear and innocent, untouched by shadows of resentment or sorrow. Her brow slightly furrowed as she looks at the resplendent Huainan princess, her tone soft and unfamiliar, filled with utter bewilderment. "Who is this lady?" The room falls silent, the stillness palpable. Her gaze shifts gently to Zhao Si, whose complexion has turned suddenly pale, his form barely perceptibly swaying. She tilts her head, her eyes pure as melting snow, radiating innocence. "And who is this young gentleman? Why is everyone looking at me like this?" The room remains silent. The sound of a pin dropping could be heard. The expression of poignant sorrow and guilt on the face of the princess of Huainan became utterly frozen, as a perfect mask cracked slightly, revealing an unexpected look of astonishment beneath. Zhao Yan abruptly lifted his head to gaze at her, his mouth agape, his Adam's apple rolling violently, yet he could not utter a single word. Lady Yu, the wife of the Duke of Jingua, was momentarily taken aback, then gasped sharply, and immediately embraced her, bursting into tears. My unfortunate child. After such a fall, how is it that you cannot even recognize those close to you? I shall summon the imperial physician at once. The very best physician. She leaned against her mother's warm, slightly trembling shoulder, allowing her mother to weep as she explained to the frozen pair, "You've sustained a head injury. Perhaps the accumulated blood is causing this momentary confusion." Yet her gaze drifted past her mother's shoulder and settled on a blossoming white magnolia outside the window. In a hidden corner of her lips, there was a faint, cold smile that quickly vanished. What was the point of remembering? To confront them and receive perhaps their sincere remorse and compensation, only to marry into the royal family, and in the future, see them tread carefully around her out of guilt while she remained with a thorn in her throat? Or should she let the Duke's household and the Huainan Prince's family become irrevocably estranged, causing her father to face difficulties in court? It would be far better to forget. To forget completely and utterly. To preserve each other's dignity and sever ties cleanly. Zhou Yurong fell ill. Several groups of physicians arrived, all delivering similar diagnoses: a head injury, with blood still pooling, causing memory loss, and requiring quietude and recuperation. As for when recovery might occur, it was left to fate. The Duke's household closed its doors to visitors, merely stating that the young lady needed to rest. The Huainan Prince's family sent numerous precious tonics and medicinal herbs, and the princess herself visited twice, each time finding Zhou Yurong in a gentle yet distant state, entirely unrecognizable. Ultimately, she sighed, leaving a remark of "take good care of your health," and ceased her visits. That once envied engagement silently foundered in this unspoken stillness. Outside the window, the magnolia bloomed and withered, while cherry blossoms clustered on the branches, and the warm breeze began to stir. Zhou Yurong leaned against the soft couch by the window, perusing a light book, her demeanor tranquil. The wound on her forehead had healed, leaving a shallow pink scar concealed within her hair. Her body had long since recovered, though she appeared slightly thinner, her chin pointed, making her dark, large eyes seem even more pronounced. She often gazed into the distance, her emotions inscrutable. Miss Yunxiu entered quietly, setting down a freshly brewed jasmine tea. Her tone tinged with a restrained excitement and caution. "Have you heard? The results of this examination have been announced." Zhou Yurong's eyelashes fluttered slightly, but she did not look up, merely responding with a soft The servants in the household had been abuzz with talk lately, and she had caught wind of some of it. The top scholar, the second place, and the third place were all youthful talents, particularly the third-place scholar, renowned not only for his literary prowess but also for his striking appearance, creating a stir in the capital. "I heard," Yunxiu lowered her voice, glancing at Zhou Yurong's expression, "that the Huainan prince's family recently sent a matchmaker to the Su scholar's residence." Su Yunha's father, the Su scholar, was Zhao Yan's deceased mentor. The pages of Zhou Yurong's book paused momentarily under her fingertips before she gently turned them. She lifted her teacup, taking a sip of the warm brew infused with jasmine's fragrance, though it did little to mask the faint bitterness on her tongue. So it was. This stumbling block had been removed in such a respectable manner, and naturally, they were eager to proceed. As they spoke, an unusual commotion suddenly erupted from the front courtyard, suggesting a considerable number of people were moving about and discussing matters. A small maid rushed in, breathless and flushed. "Miss, the lady requests that you prepare yourself quickly. There is an envoy from the heavens arriving." "An envoy? A eunuch bearing imperial edicts?" Zhou Yurong was taken aback. The Duke's household held a title, and there was still a favored concubine in the palace. It was not uncommon to receive edicts, but why would they specifically summon her? Zhou Yurong hastily donned a formal outfit suitable for receiving guests and hurried to the front hall, where her father, Duke Zhou Qing, and her mother, Lady Yu, awaited with grave expressions. Upon her arrival, her mother quickly urged her to kneel, her eyes reflecting a complex mix of concern and a hint of incredulous joy. The eunuch's sharp voice resonated in the hall, delivering the ornate imperial decree. The new third-place scholar, Su Xuanji, is distinguished in both talent and virtue, bringing comfort to my heart. I have heard of the esteemed daughter of Duke Zhou Qing, Zhou Yurong, whose elegance and propriety render her suitable for marriage. I hereby grant the union of the two, to be wed on an auspicious day, as a sign of heavenly grace. Zhou Yurong knelt on the cold floor, her mind blank.
Su Xuanzi?
That celebrated third-place scholar? She had never met him. Why would he request to marry her? A woman who had fallen from a horse and lost her memory, effectively rejected by the royal family? Instinctively, she raised her eyes. Her father's expression was solemn and scrutinizing, while her mother appeared torn between joy and worry. Until the decree was received with gratitude, and she was escorted to the bridal chamber, Zhou Yurong felt as though everything was unreal, like a dream. The duke's household and the scholar's residence were festooned with lights and filled with guests. Zhou Yurong, adorned with a heavy phoenix crown and clad in an intricate wedding gown, resembled a delicate doll, completing all the ceremonial rites amid the cacophony of drums, firecrackers, and the throngs of people. In the bridal chamber, the red candles flickered high, casting a warm, hazy glow over the luxurious decor. The air was thick with the sweet fragrance of the bridal chamber and the scent of burning wax. Footsteps approached, stopping at the door. Her heart inexplicably tightened. The door swung open, revealing a pair of feet clad in bright red wedding boots, advancing toward her step by step. The wedding veil was gently lifted by a jade rui adorned with red silk, and her vision expanded suddenly. Under the bright light of the dragon and phoenix candles, Su Xuanji stood before her. Dressed in auspicious red, embroidered with golden clouds and coiling dragons, he appeared as if imbued with a radiant glow, his complexion fair. Lips tinged red, more striking than a fleeting glance in daylight, exuding an aura of noble grace that made one hesitant to gaze directly upon him. He dismissed the attendants, leaving only the two of them in the bridal chamber, where silence prevailed, allowing them to hear the soft crackling of the red candles. His gaze settled calmly upon her face, scrutinizing her not as a bride, but as if seeking a long-lost mark of recognition. His focused eyes causing her fingertips to curl slightly. The ceremonial wine was presented, their arms entwined, mere inches apart. She lowered her eyes, inhaling his crisp, clean scent mingled with a hint of wine. As the cup was lowered, he showed no intention of departing. Suddenly, he grasped her hand. Zhou Yurong's fingertips instinctively recoiled, attempting to pull away, but he firmly, yet gently, guided her cool palm to rest against his left chest. Through the heavy, luxurious brocade, she felt the steady, warm beating of his heart, each thump resonating deeply, causing her fingertips to tingle in response to the rhythm. "Miss," he spoke, his voice deep and rich, blending into the warm night, carrying an indescribable sigh that seemed to transcend time. "Do you still remember? 7 years ago in the snowy fields on the outskirts of the capital, when you gave a piece of still warm osmanthus cake to a little beggar." Zhou Yurong's fingertips trembled violently, and she instantly lifted her gaze to meet his. 7 years ago? The outskirts of the capital? Snowy fields? A beggar? A long-sealed memory was suddenly pried open. It seemed to have been an extremely cold winter. She had accompanied her mother to a temple outside the city to pray for blessings. On the way back, a snowstorm had ensued, and their carriage became stuck beside the road, where she spotted a frail figure nearly buried in snow, with eyes so dark and stubborn, frozen and purplish. The snack box she had pushed toward him as her mother urged her to draw the carriage curtains fell down. Fragmented images flashed rapidly, unclear and blurred. She could not even recall the beggar's face, only vaguely remembering those remarkably bright eyes. It turned out he was
Su Xuanzi trúc cờ sốc ti.
Tightening his grip on her hand, which was yearning to escape, drawing her closer. The steady and powerful rhythm of his heartbeat seemed poised to penetrate through her skin and veins, directly crashing into her long-frozen heart. "It matters not," he leaned in closer, the candlelight casting a gentle, flickering shadow in the depths of his profound gaze. His warm breath brushed against her astonished, slightly parted lips and sensitive ears. His voice barely above a whisper, imbued with a solemn promise. "Though you may not remember, I dare not forget even for a day. Life is long enough. I can repay my gratitude slowly." Su Xuanji's words rippled through her heart like stones cast into a still lake. Repay gratitude? Thus, his proposal for marriage stemmed not from love nor from a calculation of benefits, but simply due to that trivial piece of cake from 7 years ago in the snow. Zhou Yurong stared blankly at the handsome face so near her, his eyes harboring profound emotions. Beneath that gentle demeanor seemed to lie something more complex and elusive. She attempted to retract her hand, but he held it firmly, a grip that was unyielding yet gentle enough not to cause her pain. "My lord." She finally regained her voice, raspy and slightly hoarse. That was merely a trifling act of kindness, hardly worth mentioning. "You truly need not."
To you?
"It may have been a trifling act," Su Xuanji interjected, his gaze calm and his tone undeniably resolute, but to Su Xuanji, it was a matter of life and death. "Had it not been for your meal of kindness that day, I may have perished in the biting cold." He gradually released her hand, the warmth of his touch and the vigor of his heartbeat suddenly receding, leaving behind only a lingering warmth in her palm. Zhou Yurong instinctively curled her fingers. "The night is deep, and you have labored today. It would be best to retire early." He stepped back, restoring the appropriate distance and respect, as if the moment of intensity and emotional revelation was merely her illusion. He turned and walked towards the pearwood couch on the other side of the room, unfastening his outer robe and lying down fully clothed, his demeanor unpretentious, devoid of any hint of intimacy one might expect on a wedding night. The red candle burned quietly, its wax dripping in winding trails. Zhou Yurong sat stiffly beside the bridal bed adorned with a vibrant red mandarin duck quilt, gazing at the upright silhouette on the couch, her heart a tumult of confusion. So much had transpired that day: the imperial decree, the bridal sedan, the wedding chamber, and this entirely unfamiliar husband who claimed he wished to repay a debt of gratitude. She had prepared herself to rest quietly at the Duke's residence for a lifetime, or perhaps to enter into a marriage arranged by her family that bore no relation to love, a relationship built on mutual respect. Yet, she had never anticipated that she would wed such a man in this manner. Ultimately, she succumbed to exhaustion and bewilderment, lying down fully clothed. The brocade quilt beneath her was soft and warm, exuding the sense of sunshine and spices, yet she lay with her eyes open, drifting into a muddled sleep only in the late hours of the night. The following morning, Zhou Yurong awoke to subtle sounds. Upon opening her eyes, she was greeted once more by the unfamiliar canopy of the 100 Sons, 1,000 Grandsons tent, a reminder of her new status as a wife. Faint sounds of water and footsteps drifted from the outer chamber. She sat up and lifted the curtain, only to find Su Xuanji already dressed in a light blue tunic, standing by the window as a servant arranged his attire. Morning light poured through the window, casting a soft golden hue around him, his profile strikingly handsome and gentle. Hearing the movement, he turned his head, his expression bright and clear. "Awake?" His tone was as natural as that of a couple who had been married for years. "My lord," Zhou Yurong murmured, feeling a touch of unease as she lowered her lashes. The maid Yunxiu and several accompanying maidservants entered in succession, carrying washing utensils. Upon seeing Su Xuanji, they paused in surprise, then hurriedly bowed, their faces tinged with curiosity and shyness. Su Xuanji nodded slightly and turned to Zhou Yurong, saying, "At the hour of the snake, we shall enter the palace to express our gratitude. Breakfast is prepared. Partake, and I shall come to fetch you when the time arrives." With that, he departed with the servant, leaving her in solitude. As she prepared herself, Yunxiu, while arranging her hair, whispered tidbits she had gathered. "Mistress, no, madam. I have heard that our esteemed lord's household is quite simple. His parents passed away early, and he was raised by relatives. Now that he has achieved the rank of a third-place scholar and been granted an official title, he has established this residence. Aside from a few old servants, there are no other relatives, not even a concubine or a secondary wife. A simple household might, perhaps, be a blessing for her." After breakfast, Su Xuanji arrived punctually, now clad in a deep blue official robe, which accentuated his tall stature and noble demeanor. They exited the residence together, taking a carriage towards the palace. In the Hall of Golden Chimes, the Emperor's Majesty remained, yet the gaze directed at them was significantly softened. Minister Su Xuanji and his wife, Zhou, humbly thank your Majesty for the divine blessing of marriage. Long live the emperor. The couple respectfully performed a deep bow. The emperor regarded the pair, their harmonious appearance pleasing to his eye, and he smiled, saying, "When I granted the marriage, I sensed you were well matched. It appears I was correct. May you both enjoy a harmonious and united life together. We will heed your majesty's counsel, supporting one another loyally and diligently," Su Xuanji replied steadily, with Zhou Yurong following suit in gratitude. The emperor nodded, bestowing generous silks and gold upon them, adding, "I have heard that consort he has often mentioned her niece. Now that you are in the palace, I suggest you pay a visit to Yanhui Palace, allowing her to share in your joy."
We will obey.
Upon exiting the grand hall, they were respectfully guided by a small eunuch from consort he's quarters. The Yanhui Palace, where consort he resided, was not in the most favorable location, yet it was exceptionally tranquil and elegant. Inside the main hall, consort He Zhou was already seated, waiting. "Dear niece Yurong, accompanied by your husband Su Xuanji, pays her respects to consort He. Long live the consort." Zhou Yurong and Su Xuanji bowed again in accordance with familial etiquette, which felt more intimate. "Rise, rise," consort He spoke with a gentle tone, personally assisting them up, her gaze shifting between the two, her smile deepening. "Wonderful, truly wonderful. Seeing you together brings me great comfort." She specifically looked at Su Xuanji, saying, "Xuanji, Yurong has been somewhat spoiled by her family since childhood. You will need to be patient and understanding with her." Su Xuanji bowed sincerely. "Your Highness, you overstate it. It is my fortune to have Yurong as my wife. I shall cherish and love her, not failing to honor the grace bestowed by your majesty and you, nor the trust of my parents-in-law." Consort He nodded in satisfaction and took Zhou Yurong's hand, scrutinizing her complexion closely. "After that distressing incident, you seem more composed now. It appears that being married has indeed made a difference." Her words were filled with the concern of an elder. "In the future, live well with Xuanji. Unity lies in honesty and mutual support." "I understand. Thank you for your guidance, Aunt," Zhou Yurong replied softly, naturally reverting to the familiar address within her aunt's palace. The palace attendants presented tea and pastries. Consort He inquired about family matters, her tone warm and affectionate. "How are your parents? Did they find the blood swallow I sent the other day useful? Now that you are a wife, you must gradually learn to manage household affairs. Should you have any questions, feel free to send a message to inquire with me in the palace or ask your mother at home." She chatted on, resembling a typical aunt concerned for her niece, warming Zhou Yurong's heart. Su Xuanji listened quietly from the side, occasionally responding, his demeanor respectful yet approachable. After a while of small talk, consort He seemed to recall something and smiled, saying, "Look at me, so engrossed in conversation. You both have worked hard to express your gratitude. You should return and rest." She commanded the maids to bring forth 2 brocade boxes. "These are not precious items. Just a pair of jade pendants, symbolizing that you may enjoy all that is auspicious and harmonious in your married life." The couple expressed their gratitude once more. Consort He then particularly addressed Su Xuanji, "I entrust Yurong to you. I shall not fail your Highness's trust." Exiting Yanhui Palace, the afternoon sun was just right, warmly bathing them in its glow. Zhou Yurong cradled the heavy jade pendants in her hands, her heart brimming with warmth and tranquility. "The Empress holds you dear."
Su Xuanji the marks of thee.
"Indeed," Zhou Yurong replied, turning her head to glance at him, her eyes and brows adorned with a gentle glow. "My aunt has treated me exceptionally well since my childhood." "Yes," he responded quietly. The two fell into a comfortable silence, hand in hand, steadily making their way out of the palace. The vermilion palace walls stretched endlessly, their figures nestled together as if it were always meant to be, inseparable. The residence of the newly appointed top scholar was modest in size, with 3 courtyards, yet it was adorned with an exquisite elegance. Pavilions and towers, small bridges and flowing streams, all showcased the artisan's ingenuity. Though lacking the grandeur of a duke's mansion, it possessed a unique tranquility and profound charm. Su Xuanji seemed quite busy. On the 3rd day of their marriage, he resumed his daily routine of attending the Hanlin Academy. Nevertheless, he always returned home punctually to share dinner with her. The dining table was never dull. He would inquire about her day, what books she had read, and occasionally share amusing anecdotes from the academy or the city's happenings. His vast knowledge and witty conversation never came across as ostentatious, effortlessly transforming mundane topics into lively discussions. Zhou Yorong, initially reserved and guarded, gradually began to respond to him more often. Su Xuanji discovered her keen insights into calligraphy and painting, sometimes bringing out his cherished artworks for them to appreciate together. Days flowed like a serene spring, calm and undisturbed. On this day, Su Xuanji took a day off and the two engaged in a game of chess beneath the study window. Zhou Yorong, playing as white, found herself cornered and deep in thought. Su Xuanji, not rushing her, held a teacup, his gaze occasionally drifting to her furrowed brow and focused profile, his eyes warm. Suddenly, the butler's slightly urgent voice interrupted from outside. "Sir, madam, a message from the Prince of Huainan's residence." The tranquil air in the study momentarily stilled. Zhou Yorong's hand, poised over the chess piece, froze in midair. Su Xuanji set down his teacup, his expression unchanged. "What is it?" The butler replied from outside. "In 3 days. It is the birthday of the Princess of Huainan. A banquet will be held at the residence, and we have come to deliver an invitation for you both to attend." Zhou Yorong's heart tightened gently. What was inevitable had finally arrived. Since her amnesia, she had yet to formally encounter her past acquaintances, especially Zhao Yi. Instinctively, she glanced at Su Xuanji. He took the gilded invitation from the butler, glanced at it briefly, and casually placed it on the table, his tone indifferent. "Understood. Reply to the residence that my wife and I will certainly attend on time." The butler acknowledged and withdrew. The study returned to silence, the only sound being the rustle of bamboo, leaves outside in the wind. "If you do not wish to go, you may feign illness," Su Xuanji suggested, looking at her, his voice softening. Yet Zhou Yorong shook her head. One could evade for a moment, but not for a lifetime. Having chosen to conclude her past with amnesia, she felt compelled to see this through. She raised her eyes to meet his gaze, her tone calm. "It is of no concern. I shall go." 3 days later, the entrance of the Huainan prince's residence was bustling with carriages and guests. The couple's appearance instantly drew numerous gazes. Handsome and graceful, they resembled a perfect pair. However, this combination was somewhat unexpected, the newly appointed top scholar and the daughter of a duke who had been rejected due to amnesia. Whispers circulated among the crowd, filled with curiosity and scrutiny, perhaps tinged with a hint of amusement. The Princess of Huainan, Lady Xie, personally came to greet them, her face alight with a warm, appropriately enthusiastic smile. "Su Xiaochuan, Madam Su, please come in." Her eyes quickly scanned Zhou Yorong's face with an assessing gaze. Noticing her calm demeanor, her smile deepened. Zhou Yorong slightly bent her knee in greeting, her smile gentle and proper. "On the occasion of the princess's birthday, it is only fitting for me to offer my congratulations. I wish the princess longevity and health." Her demeanor was impeccable, displaying neither a hint of error nor an overly familiar warmth, maintaining a polite distance befitting her elder. The princess smiled, taking her hand and exchanging a few pleasantries, yet her gaze frequently darted towards Su Xuanji, seemingly searching for something in his expression. Su Xuanji maintained a light smile, responding with ease, and soon led Zhou Yorong to their seats. The banquet was set within the garden's waterside pavilion, with melodious music and clinking cups creating a lively atmosphere. What was meant to arrive had finally come. Zhao Yi approached with a wine cup in hand, dressed in the ceremonial robes of air, his golden crown and jade belt failing to conceal the shadows of fatigue and melancholy on his brow. His gaze fell on Zhou Yorong, filled with complexity. After a moment, he turned to Su Xuanji. "Su Xiaochuan, Madam Su." His voice was hoarse, the fingers gripping the wine cup trembling slightly. "Your Grace." Su Xuanji raised his cup in return, his demeanor unflustered. Zhou Yorong also lifted her cup, nodding slightly, her gaze as tranquil as that of a stranger. "Your Grace." Her tone was cool, devoid of emotion. Zhao Yi stared into her clear yet indifferent eyes, as if she had truly erased him from her memory. A wave of turmoil surged within him, and his complexion paled further. He opened his mouth, seemingly wanting to say something, but ultimately swallowed the wine in one gulp, stating with a dry throat, "Enjoy your meal." Watching his unsteady retreat, Zhou Yorong lowered her eyelashes, concealing a faint ripple of emotion beneath. After all, He had once been someone she genuinely hoped to walk through life with, even with a cold heart. She was not made of stone. Suddenly, she felt warmth on her hand. Su Xuanji's hand gently covered hers beneath the table. His palm was broad and warm, calloused yet steady, enveloping her cool fingertips and silently conveying a sense of strength. Zhou Yorong's fingers trembled, yet she did not withdraw. At that moment, an official familiar with the Huainan prince's residence spoke up with a smile. Though his tone carried an imperceptible hint of challenge, I have long heard of Su Xuanji's exceptional talent, which has pleased His Majesty greatly. On this auspicious occasion of the princess's birthday, why not compose a poem to elevate the festivities? Immediately, all eyes turned toward him. This seemed like praise. Yet it placed Su Xuanji under scrutiny. Should he excel, it would be expected. If mediocre, it would invite criticism of living up to his reputation, and if he declined, it would appear petty. Su Xuanji's expression remained unchanged as he calmly released Zhou Yorong's hand, stood, and took up his cup. After a moment's contemplation, his gaze swept over the blooming garden and the fish swimming in the pond, and he proclaimed aloud, "On the princess's birthday, a splendid occasion. Jade trees and exquisite banquets reflect the azure waters. Crane calculations add to a millennium of longevity. Peach blossoms silently wish for 100 springs. Music and song linger, halting the floating clouds. Fish and birds rejoice, bringing forth auspicious energy anew. Fortunate to lean on the Moon Palace's guest of honor. Dare I present these humble verses to you, my esteemed kin." The poem was elegantly crafted, celebrating the occasion while subtly incorporating his own identity as the Moon Palace's guest. It was neither humble nor arrogant, delivered with grace and poise. A moment of silence enveloped the gathering, soon followed by resounding applause. Wonderful. A splendid poem. Su Xuanji truly lives up to his reputation. Quick-witted and talented. We are in awe. The official who had posed the challenge briefly showed a hint of embarrassment, but could only join in the praise. Lady Xie, the princess, beamed with gratitude, repeatedly thanking him and ordering generous rewards. Su Xuanji took his seat amidst the accolades, appearing as though he had merely accomplished a trivial task. He turned his head quickly, casting a glance at Zhou Yorong, and in his eyes, there seemed to be a subtle plea for affirmation. Zhou Yorong, caught off guard by his rare expression, instinctively curved her lips into a smile, raising her teacup to hide the unintentional joy. After this incident, no one dared to test the seemingly gentle new top scholar lightly. Meanwhile, the invisible, delicate barrier between him and Zhou Yorong appeared to have quietly melted away, even if just a little, in that shared glance and smile. As the banquet continued, guests began to leave their seats in small groups to enjoy the garden scenery. Accompanied by a maid, Zhou Yorong emerged after changing and washing her hands. As she traversed a peony garden, her path was suddenly obstructed by Su Yunha. Clad in a delicate gown of soft yellow, she stood there like a frail willow swaying in the breeze, her eyes slightly reddened, gazing at Zhou Yorong with a mixture of hesitation and sorrow. "Madame Zhou," she spoke in a gentle, quivering tone. Zhou Yorong halted, her expression calm as she regarded her. "Does Miss Su have something to discuss?" Taking a step closer, Su Yunha's eyes brimmed with tears, and she suddenly knelt, intending to bow deeply. "Madam, I am deeply sorry. Had it not been for my brother during the hunt, you would not have suffered a fall and subsequent injury, losing your memory. This is all my fault." Yunxiu, following Zhou Yorong, changed countenance, ready to intervene. But Zhou Yorong gently raised her hand to stay her. She looked at the theatrically adept Su Yunha before her, feeling no turbulence within, even finding it somewhat amusing. Slightly sidestepping to avoid the bow, she replied in a detached tone, "Miss Su, you overestimate the matter. The fall was an accident, unrelated to anyone. As for my amnesia, perhaps it is a mercy from the heavens, allowing me to forget unnecessary worries. There is no need for you to be troubled."
Su Yunha's sobs abruptly ceased.
As if taken aback by Zhou Yorong's response, she lifted her tear-stained face, staring blankly at her. Zhou Yorong, no longer looking at her, stated coolly, "If Miss Su has no further matters to address, I must take my leave." With that, she gracefully passed by, accompanied by her maid. After walking a few paces, she could still sense a gaze behind her, filled with disbelief and a hint of resentment. Having just rounded a rockery, she spotted Su Xuanji standing under the moon gate, seemingly having awaited her arrival for some time. Sunlight filtered through the leaves, casting mottled shadows upon him. His eyes were deep as he regarded her, infused with a hint of inquiry and an inscrutable complexity she could not fathom. Had he overheard? Zhou Yurong's heart tightened inexplicably. Their gazes intertwined in the air. The gentle sound of water trickling through the rock crevices accentuated the profound silence of the moment. Zhou Yurong paused, uncertain of how much he had heard and what he might think. Would he perceive her handling of Su Yunhe as cunning, rather than the gentle and amnesiac facade she presented? Yet Su Xuanji did not press further. He merely extended his hand. His tone as usual. It is rather warm in the banquet hall. The lotus pond in the western corner of the garden offers a fine view. Would you care to take a stroll? His broad palm, with distinct knuckles, hung in the air, awaiting her response. His demeanor so natural it seemed as if they were a couple accustomed to each other for years. Zhou Yurong hesitated for a moment, but ultimately placed her hand within his grasp. His fingers immediately enveloped her, warm and reassuring. As he guided her around the rockery, along the bluestone path toward the west, he led her away from the discomforting encounter without inquiry or reproach, silently affirming his stance through this simple act. The lotus pond was serene, with newly sprouted leaves just breaking the surface, dotting the water with delicate green. The evening breeze brushed against them, carrying the moist scent of vegetation and the faint aroma of grass, dissipating the din of the banquet and easing her heart as slight turmoil. Earlier, Zhou Yurong could no longer restrain herself and began to explain. "You handled it quite well," Su Xuanji interjected, his gaze fixed on the glimmering water. The contours of his profile appeared soft in the twilight. "It is better to forget unnecessary worries." His tone was casual, yet it felt like a stone cast into her tranquil heart. Did he trust her? Or did he simply not care whether her amnesia was genuine, only valuing her current role as Madame Su? As they walked side by side in silence, the atmosphere was devoid of awkwardness. His hand remained firmly clasped around hers, their warmth gradually merging. "Sir seems quite familiar with the scenery of the Wang residence?" Zhou Yurong sought to break the silence, recalling how he had guided her here with ease. Su Xuanji paused momentarily before responding nonchalantly. "After being the second place in the Imperial examination, I accompanied my mentor to the Wang residence on 2 occasions. He turned to her, a faint smile flickering in his eyes. "Madam observes keenly." Just then, muffled voices of a heated argument reached their ears, sounding oddly familiar. Su Xuanji's brow furrowed slightly as he silently pulled her into a dense thicket of bamboo. The leaves concealed them perfectly, allowing them to observe the scene unfolding in a nearby pavilion. To their surprise, standing opposite each other inside the pavilion were Zhao Si and Su Yunhe. Zhao Si had his back to them, his figure taut, his voice laced with suppressed anger and impatience. "Did you seek her out again? Yunhe, I have told you this matter is settled. Why stir up trouble again?" Su Yunhe tilted her face upward, her eyes glistening with tears, her voice imbued with grievance and a quavering note. "Brother Si, I feel so guilty. Had it not been for me, you would not have resorted to such measures, and Miss Zhou would not be married to another man. Can you truly accept this?" Silence. Zhao Si abruptly interrupted her, his voice rising sharply before he caught himself, forcing it down with a weary tone, imbued with warning. "What measures? That was merely an accident. Do not speak foolishly again." As for her, he paused, his voice dropping to a murmur. "Since she does not remember and is married, let each of us find peace." Concealed behind the bamboo, Zhou Yurong's fingers instinctively tightened, her nails digging into her palm. Measures?
Accident?
Although she had long suspected the truth, hearing it confirmed by the parties involved sent a chilling wave coursing through her. It became painfully clear how little her life mattered in their eyes. All this for a mere hunting prize, to win a smile from a pretty face? A warm hand gently covered her tightly clenched fist, firm yet undeniable, as he pried her fingers open one by one before enclosing them in his palm. Su Xuanji said nothing, simply holding her hand with a steady strength, silently conveying his support. However, his gaze was sharp as a blade, coldly fixed on the 2 individuals in the pavilion, his jawline taut with tension. Inside the pavilion, Su Yunhe seemed startled by Zhao Si's harsh demeanor, her cries intensifying. Brother Si, why are you so fierce? You never used to be this way. I know you still think of her, don't you? What about our marriage? The marriage is my mother's decision. Zhao Si retorted, his tone exasperated, clearly unwilling to discuss it further. You should return home. Do not attract unwanted attention. With that, he turned away, leaving Su Yunhe sobbing in the pavilion. Alone. Su Yunhe stood in the pavilion, watching Zhao Si's retreating figure with a face that gradually transformed from one of weakness and grievance to one of resentment and indignation. She stamped her foot angrily before turning to leave via another path. The bamboo grove fell silent once more, with only the rustling leaves whispering in the wind. Su Xuanji finally released her hand and spoke softly. Let us go. In the carriage returning home, the atmosphere was even more somber than before. Zhou Yurong leaned against the carriage wall, gazing at the swiftly retreating streets through the window, the neon lights flickering across her face. The repressed, unwelcome memories surged back, the whinnying of the startled horse, the violent jolts, the sharp pain from striking the stone, and Zhao Si's complex, cold gaze, which concealed such unspeakable schemes behind it. A cool handkerchief was offered before her eyes. Zhou Yurong looked up in surprise to meet Su Xuanji's deep-set gaze. He did not look at her directly, his eyes lost in the distance, yet his voice was low and gentle. If you feel unwell, there is no need to endure it. So, he had noticed her pale complexion and the chill in her fingertips. She hesitated before accepting the handkerchief, not to wipe away tears, but gripping it tightly in her hand, the soft silk feeling abrasive against her palm. Did you know all along? She finally voiced her lingering doubt. Had he sought her hand in marriage because he was aware of the underlying circumstances? Su Xuanji remained silent for a moment before answering. Not precisely. I only knew your fall was not an accident, and that it involved those two. He turned his head, his gaze calm as it rested upon her face. As for the specifics, they are of little importance. What matters is that you are now my wife. His tone was devoid of any tumult, yet it bore an undeniable sense of possession and guardianship. Why me? Zhou Yurong gazed at him, the candlelight flickering in her eyes. Is it merely because of a piece of cake? Su Xuanji met her gaze, the dim light within the carriage rendering his eyes unfathomably deep. After a prolonged silence, he slowly spoke, his voice low yet distinct. That piece of cake saved my life. And you? He leaned slightly closer, his breath brushing against her forehead. Made me want to live, and to live better. These words surged like a warm current, unexpectedly crashing into her frozen heart, stirring up tumultuous ripples. She stared at him, momentarily at a loss for words. Just then, the carriage came to a halt, and the coachman reported from outside, My lord, my lady, we have arrived at the residence. Su Xuanji alighted first, extending his arm for her to take as she descended. The lanterns before the estate emanated a warm glow, casting a long shadow of his tall figure. Standing in that light, he turned to look at her, his gaze calm, awaiting her. Zhou Yurong took a deep breath, suppressing the chaotic and cold emotions within, and placed her hand in the crook of his arm. This time, her fingertips were not as icy. Days seemed to return to a semblance of tranquility, yet something intangible had quietly shifted. Following their return from the Wang residence, Su Xuanji appeared increasingly attentive towards her. He noted her culinary preferences, and the study gradually filled with travelogues and essays she cherished. On one occasion during a day off, he even rolled up his sleeves and, using a recipe he had procured from somewhere, prepared a bowl of rock sugar bird's nest for her. Though his technique was somewhat clumsy, the flavor was unexpectedly sweet. Zhou Yurong cradled the warm bowl of bird's nest, observing his side profile, slightly flushed from the stove's heat, and a fragment of her hardened heart melted away. She began to manage some of his trifles, such as organizing his frequently read books and leaving a lamp lit with a warm supper for him upon his late returns. Their conversations remained few, yet a silent understanding blossomed between them. One day, Su Xuanji returned home from his duties, his brow slightly furrowed, a hint of gravity about him. During dinner, he casually remarked, the capital has been rather unsettled of late. Several official families have been targeted by night thieves. Though no lives have been lost, some valuables have been taken. If you have no pressing matters, my lady, it would be wise to refrain from venturing out after dusk. I have also increased the guards around the estate. Zhou Yurong paused briefly, her hand holding the chopsticks lingering in the air as she looked up at him. Is something afoot in court? Her keen perception sensed that he was referring to more than mere common thieves. Su Xuanji glanced at her, seemingly appreciating her sharpness. Yet he did not elaborate. Just some petty miscreants. The emperor has commanded the Jingzhou Yin to conduct a thorough investigation. There is no need for undue concern. Although he spoke lightly, Zhou Yurong took his words to heart. Over the following days, she noted the heightened vigilance around the estate. And Su Xuanji's return times became increasingly unpredictable, sometimes arriving home late at night, cloaked in the chill of the evening dew. That night, Zhou Yurong had already retired when she was stirred awake by a faint commotion outside the window. It sounded like soft footsteps and hushed voices emanating from the study. A sense of unease crept in as she donned her robe and quietly approached the intricately carved door connecting her bedroom to the study, straining to listen. The study was brightly illuminated, casting two indistinct shadows. One was Su Xuanji, while the other appeared to be a burly figure dressed as a guard. Are you certain they are after the grain transport ledgers? Su Xuanji's voice was low, yet imbued with a chilling sharpness. Yes, my lord. The intruder is agile and seems well acquainted with military tactics, familiar with the layout of the Ministry of Revenue's archives. Had we not been prepared, I fear. The guard's voice was coarse, tinged with apprehension. Are the ledgers secure? Su Xuanji interjected. As per your instructions, they have been moved to a safe location. However, my lord, given that the intruder has failed this time, they are unlikely to relent. With you now in the limelight and having just married, I am concerned. That is of no consequence. Su Xuanji's tone was calm, yet it carried a reassuring strength. Since they have become desperate, it indicates we are nearing the core of the issue. Ensure the ledgers are well guarded, increase the personnel, and discreetly protect the safety of my lady. There must be no oversight. Understood. Additionally, have there been any movements from the Huainan Wang residence lately? The heir, Zhao Yi, seems to be in close contact with the son of the Minister of War, frequently meeting at the Juxian building in the southern part of the city. As for the Su family, there is nothing particularly noteworthy, except that Miss Su has been visiting the Jingxin temple outside of town to offer incense, often spending half the day there. Jingxin temple, Su Xuanji pondered for a moment, continue to monitor the situation, report immediately if there are any developments. Understood. The study fell into a brief silence, followed by the faint sound of paper rustling. Zhou Yurong held her breath, silently retreating back to her bedside, her heart racing. Grain transport ledgers? Military tactics? Huainan Wang residence? Minister of War? Though she had long resided in seclusion, she understood that grain transport was crucial to the national treasury and the capital's grain supply, a coveted prize among various factions, fraught with peril. As a Hamlin Academy editor, Su Xuanji was not typically involved in such matters. What exactly was he investigating covertly that warranted an intrusion into the Ministry of Revenue's archives? And why had he specifically mentioned the need to protect her safety? A wave of inexplicable warmth intertwined with her concern, gently coursing through her heart. He did not merely regard her as a person to whom he owed gratitude, relegating her to the confines of the household, within his tumultuous world. He had clearly delineated her safe haven. The following morning at breakfast, Su Xuanji bore faint shadows beneath his eyes, yet his demeanor remained as calm and gentle as ever, as if the previous night's clandestine discussion had been but a fleeting dream. Zhou Yurong refrained from probing further. However, as he rose to depart for the government office, she softly uttered, "My lord, take care." Su Xuanji paused, turning to look at her. In the morning light, she wore a simple pale green skirt, her face free of makeup, yet a palpable worry lingered in her eyes. His gaze softened as he stepped closer, raising his hand to gently brush a stray lock of hair from her cheek, the intimacy of the gesture momentarily startling them both. "All right," he replied softly, a hint of a smile lacing his voice. "Wait for me at home." Only after his figure disappeared behind the screen did Zhou Yurong slowly raise her hand to touch the spot where his fingers had brushed against, still warm to the touch. Her heart was far from calm. However, the trees may wish for stillness, but the winds do not relent. In the afternoon, while Zhou Yurong was practicing calligraphy, the doorkeeper announced a visit from Miss Su Yunhe. Zhou Yurong frowned. After the birthday banquet at the Wang residence, she believed her ties with this individual had been severed. After a brief consideration, she instructed them to let her in. Today, Su Yunhe was dressed modestly, yet a hint of uncontainable anxiety and distress was evident on her face. Upon entering the flower hall, she dismissed the attendants and, with a thud, knelt before Zhou Yorong, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Madam Su, I implore you, please save my brother Shi." Brother Shi has surely found himself entangled in a grave predicament. At this juncture, we can only seek assistance from Lord Su. Predicament? Zhou Yorong felt a sinking sensation in her heart, yet her countenance betrayed none of her turmoil. The young master possesses his own sense of propriety. Miss Su, you may be overly anxious.
No.
It is not so. Su Yunhe vehemently shook her head, tears cascading anew. Madam, do you not know that on the day of the spring hunt, she paused abruptly, her gaze flickering with trepidation as if weighed down by immense apprehension. Ultimately, she gritted her teeth and whispered, that day, the startled horses were not entirely an accident. Zhou Yorong's fingers trembled, tightening around her teacup. So she did know. Perhaps even participated. Maintaining her composure, she merely arched an eyebrow, revealing just the right amount of confusion and displeasure. Miss Su, this matter has already reached a conclusion. It was merely an incident of the horses being startled. Your reiteration of past events, shrouded in ambiguity, raises the question of your intent. If you have nothing of substance to add, I must take my leave. She feigned a movement to rise. Madam, please do not be angry. Su Yunhe hastily grasped the hem of her skirt, as if clutching at a final lifeline. Disregarding all else, she spoke in a frenzied rush. I misspoke. I was foolish. But Brother Shi is now being coerced, and it is related to this matter. Those people have seized some remnants from that day and are forcing him to do their bidding. Now, as the truth threatens to emerge, they intend to abandon him to save themselves, and Brother Shi's life is in grave danger. She trembled with despair, her anguish palpable. Those individuals have their hands in everything and are merciless. The Wang family may not be able to protect him. Currently, only Lord Su, who is deeply favored by the Emperor and possesses unwavering integrity, might uncover the truth and restore Brother Shi's honor. I implore you, Madam, remembering our past ties, to persuade Lord Su to save his life. A tumult of emotion surged within Zhou Yorong. Could it be that Zhao Shi was indeed under duress? Who were those individuals? What were they coercing him to do? Related to the transport of grain, or something more sinister? Countless questions flooded her mind. She gazed at the nearly shattered Su Yunhe, her feelings a complex tapestry of turmoil. Did she harbor resentment?
Certainly.
Yet, if what Su Yunhe claimed were true, Zhao Shi was being manipulated, potentially facing life-threatening danger. She lingered in silence for a moment, unable to harden her heart completely. It was not merely about old sentiments but concerned a precious life, possibly entwined with a larger conspiracy. With a measured withdrawal of her skirt, her voice remained calm.
Misu.
I have not comprehended a single word of what you have said today. If the young master is indeed in distress, it is appropriate to report to the prince and princess, or to petition the court for redress. How can an outsider meddle in the affairs of the Wang family? As for my lord, as a Hanlon editor, his duties are confined to compiling literature and history, and he cannot intervene in other matters. You seek help from the wrong person. Her words not only clarified the established protocols but also distanced her from the situation, leaving no grounds for further discussion. Su Yunhe collapsed onto the floor, her complexion drained of color, the last flicker of hope extinguished in her eyes, leaving behind only a hollow despair. Zhou Yorong turned away, calling out, Yunxiu, see our guest out. Miss Su is unwell. Ensure she is escorted properly. Yunxiu entered promptly, courteously yet firmly ushering the distraught Su Yunhe out of the room. The floral hall fell into silence once more, the faint scent of the now cool tea mingling with the echoes of the harrowing conversation. Zhou Yorong sat alone by the window, her mind a tumultuous whirl. How much of Su Yunhe's account held truth? How much was falsehood? Was this yet another intricately woven trap designed to drag Su Xuanji into the mire? Or was Zhao Shi genuinely ensnared, with no escape in sight? Should she inform Su Xuanji? If she did, would it disrupt his plans and place him in greater peril? Having faced scrutiny just last night, the timing of Su Yunha's plea felt too coincidental. If she chose to conceal this information, and Zhao Shi were to perish as a consequence unconsciously, her fingertips caressed the cool porcelain cup, caught in a web of indecision. As dusk fell, Su Xuanji returned home. He appeared particularly weary today, a subtle weight of seriousness etched upon his brow. However, upon entering the room and seeing her waiting for him beneath the lamp-esque glow, the gravity in his expression softened, replaced with warmth. "Were you waiting for me?" he asked naturally, shedding his cloak.
Yes.
Zhou Yurong rose, taking his cloak to hang it up, then poured him a cup of hot tea. Was the court busy today? Su Xuanji accepted the teacup, their fingers brushing inadvertently, causing both to pause. He looked at her, his gaze deep. It was manageable. Just the year-end evaluations, which brought a few more trivial matters. He hesitated, studying her. "Your complexion appears weary today. Is there something amiss in the household?" He had keenly sensed her unease. Internally, Zhou Yurong waged a battle, her fingers curling. Ultimately, concern triumphed over all. She could not afford to take risks. If it were indeed a trap, he needed to be informed and prepared. If Zhao Shi were truly in imminent danger, perhaps he possessed a way to navigate both issues. She took a deep breath, raising her eyes to meet his, and resolved to be forthright. This afternoon, Su Yunha visited. Su Xuanji's hand paused midair, his gaze sharpening with sudden intensity. What did she come for? His tone remained calm, yet a palpable pressure underlay his words. Zhou Yurong recounted Su Yunha's desperate entreaties as objectively as possible, withholding her own interpretations and emotions, including Su Yunha's near admission that the incident at the spring hunt bore deeper implications, and her claims of Zhao Shi being coerced and in mortal peril. When she finished, a heavy silence enveloped the room. The candlelight flickered, casting shadows across Su Xuanji's face, his expression inscrutable, a mixture of contemplation and restraint. After a prolonged moment, he finally set down the teacup with a crisp sound. "How did you respond?" "I did not acquiesce. I merely stated that this matter was improper and advised her to seek the rightful course through the Wang family or the court." Zhou Yurong replied honestly, pausing to add softly, "I sense there is something amiss, perhaps ulterior motives at play." Su Xuanji's gaze lingered on her face, his penetrating scrutiny gradually softening into a complex gentleness. Suddenly, he reached out, gently grasping her cool fingers. "You handled it well." His affirmation eased the tension in her heart. "This matter," he mused, his fingers unconsciously tapping the table, has surfaced more swiftly than I anticipated. Desperate dogs leap over walls. It seems they are truly anxious.
Who are they?
Zhou Yurong could not contain her curiosity. Su Xuanji regarded her, falling into silence for a moment before stating, "The implications are vast, likely involving the struggle among princes, corruption in grain transport, and perhaps even arms trafficking." As for Zhao Shi, he scoffed lightly. He is not entirely innocent, yet he may also be a mere pawn, now relegated to the status of a discarded piece. Zhou Yurong gasped quietly. She recognized the depth of the situation, but had not fathomed it to be this profound. Princes, grain transport, arms. Any one of these could unleash a tempest of chaos. What shall we? She instinctively used the word we. Su Xuanji noted this, a fleeting glimmer of amusement passing through his eyes before being replaced by gravity. "Now that you are aware of this matter, you must exercise extra caution. In the coming days, should anyone invite you out or request a meeting, do not comply under any pretext. I will reinforce the guards around the estate." He stood, moving to stand before her, looking down with an intensity akin to night. "Yurong." He called her name for the first time, his voice low and solemn. "Trust me. I will manage this matter and ensure you are not placed in peril." His unwavering gaze and weighty promise caused her heart to skip a beat. She stared at him, nodding slowly. In that moment, her doubts regarding obligations seemed to dissipate, replaced by a deeper, more intimate bond silently blossoming between them. Yet, the storm would not be deterred by their vigilance. The following morning, just as dawn broke, the tranquility of the estate was shattered by the urgent sound of galloping hooves and clamorous voices. The steward rushed into the main courtyard, breathless and panicked, exclaiming, "My lord! My lady! It is dire. The Jingzhou Inn has arrived with a large contingent of officials surrounding the estate." By imperial decree, we are here to investigate. We must request your presence, my lord. The phrase by imperial decree reverberated like thunder across the tranquil morning air of the estate. Zhou Yurong's heart plummeted, and she instinctively turned to her side to glance at Su Xuanji. He, however, appeared unsurprised, his demeanor as serene as still water, though a glint of icy sharpness flickered in his eyes. He gently patted her hand, his movements calm and unwavering, revealing no trace of panic. Fear not. I shall return shortly. Remain within the estate. Secure the doors tightly. No one shall be admitted. His composure instilled a sense of reassurance in her. Zhou Yurong took a deep breath, suppressing the tumult in her chest, and nodded. I shall await your return. Su Xuanji cast a lingering glance at her before striding out purposefully. The morning light outlined his tall figure, reminiscent of a steadfast pine, embodying an indomitable spirit. Outside the estate, Lord Feng, the Jing's Huan, accompanied by a contingent of armed officers, bore a solemn countenance. Upon seeing Su Xuanji emerge, he clasped his hands in greeting. Yet his tone brooked no dissent. Su Xiuquan, I apologize for the inconvenience. There has been an anonymous report alleging your collusion with the Chaobang, smuggling contraband, and your possible involvement in the recent theft from the Ministry of Revenue's archives. Please accompany me to the Yamen for assistance in our investigation. His voice was sufficiently loud to ensure that the early risers in the vicinity could hear every word clearly. Collusion with the Chaobang, smuggling contraband, theft from the ministry. Each accusation carried the weight of a death sentence. Su Xuanji's expression remained unchanged as he replied coolly, Lord Feng, as this is an investigation, I shall cooperate fully. However, the charges of collusion and smuggling are baseless. I hope you will discern the truth and clear my name. Of course, Lord Feng waved his hand. Take him away. The officers advanced, yet they refrained from using shackles, merely flanking Su Xuanji as they escorted him to the carriage. Their demeanor, though seemingly courteous, was more akin to that of captors. As the carriage rumbled away, it left behind a heavy silence and a myriad of astonished, questioning gazes. Zhou Yurong stood concealed behind the shadow wall, her fingers icy as she clutched her skirt tightly. She forced herself to remain calm. The Jing's Huan, acting under imperial orders to apprehend, had not conducted a house search or made arrests on the spot, suggesting the evidence was not conclusive. Or perhaps the emperor had other considerations. Su Xuanji's earlier calmness was not merely a facade. Yet, the words by imperial decree loomed over her like a heavy weight. Throughout the day, the gates of the Su residence remained bolted, rejecting all visitors. The atmosphere within was oppressive, akin to the stillness before a storm. The servants moved about in a hurried manner, their faces etched with anxiety. Zhou Yurong sat in her chamber, seemingly composed as she engaged in needlework. Yet her fingertips were pricked repeatedly by the needle, drawing blood. She could not believe the accusations. If he were to be corrupt, why wait until now? If he were truly that kind of person, how could there be such a righteous and steadfast light in his eyes? Yet this sudden frame-up was evidently aimed at him. Was it because of that ledger? Had he uncovered something crucial? As dusk approached, Yunxiu entered, pale-faced, and whispered, Madam, I have heard the commotion outside. They say the evidence is irrefutable, and there is a witness, a minor leader from the Chaobang, who claims he acted under your husband's orders. Zhou Yurong felt her heart lurch. A witness. This could solidify the charges. Moreover, Yunxiu continued, her voice dropping to a near whisper, tinged with a sob, the gatekeeper mentioned that in the afternoon, someone from the Huainan Prince's residence came by, expressing concern from the princess and wishing to invite you over. We turned them away as per the Lord's instructions. The Huainan Prince's residence? At such a critical juncture? Was it genuine concern or a test? Or was it connected to that witness? Did Zhao Si have any knowledge of this coercion? Countless thoughts swirled chaotically in her mind, giving her a splitting headache. She could not panic. She must not panic. Yunxiu. She inhaled deeply, striving to keep her voice steady. Prepare my garments and a carriage. I must return to the Duke's estate. In her current predicament, her only recourse lay with her family. Although her father, the Duke of State, had faded into semi-retirement, he still held influence in the court and might glean more information. As the carriage rolled down the dimly lit streets, Zhou Yurong could distinctly feel the curious, sympathetic, and even gloating gazes cast upon her. The once glorious wife of a top scholar had now become a mere shadow of a prisoner's family. Upon arriving at the Duke's estate, the gatekeeper was evidently taken aback, hastily ushering her inside. Upon seeing her, her mother, Madame Yu, immediately embraced her, her eyes brimming with tears. "My child, why have you returned? Is it because of Tang Sun's matter? We have all heard. What on earth is happening?" Her father, Zhou Qing, sat in a grand chair, his expression grave as he waved away the attendants. "Father, mother," Zhou Yurong steadied herself, recounting the Jing's Huiyan's apprehension, the rumors circulating outside, and the plea for help from Su Yunhe the previous day, focusing on the crucial points. "Finally," she asserted, "I do not believe my husband capable of such deeds. There must be some injustice. I implore you." Zhou Qing raised his hand to silence her, his gaze piercing as he replied gravely, "Jing's Huiyan Feng Qiong is a cunning man. If he were not somewhat assured, he would not dare to act against the Emperor's appointed top scholar. This matter is indeed troubling." After a moment's contemplation, he added, "You mentioned that the Huainan Prince's residence has been in close contact with the Minister of War's family lately, and that the Su family's daughter sought assistance yesterday?" Zhou Yurong's heart tightened. "Yes. Do you mean the tree wishes to be still? Yet the wind does not cease." Zhou Qing sighed, his gaze becoming distant. "The transport of grain, military supplies, and Prince Tangsun is likely caught in a significant upheaval. His youthful zeal in investigating has likely touched upon the fundamental interests of certain individuals. What then should we do? The most pressing issue is that so-called witness," Zhou Qing said, tapping his fingers on the table. "If we can prove this person's accusations are false or compel them to recant, Tang Sun's troubles will resolve themselves. Otherwise, even if the emperor wishes to offer protection, the clamor of the masses will make it difficult to navigate." He looked at his daughter, his gaze carrying a hint of scrutiny and an imperceptible pride. "Since you have married into the Su family, you are now one of them. It is crucial to remain steady, safeguard your home, and not to sow chaos. As for external affairs, I will devise ways to maneuver and gather intelligence. However, whether we can find the key to unraveling the situation may depend on whether Tang Sun has left himself an escape route." His words served as a stabilizing force, calming Zhou Yurong's turbulent heart. Yes, she must not falter. She must uphold the family, awaiting his return. By the time she returned to the Su residence, night had fully descended. The entrance was eerily quiet, with only 2 lanterns swaying in the night breeze. As soon as she stepped inside, the steward hurried forward, his expression peculiar, handing her an unsigned letter. "Madam, shortly after you left, a little beggar came to the gate, insisting on delivering this to you." Zhou Yurong felt a stir of emotion and took the letter back to her room, eagerly tearing it open. Inside was a thin sheet of paper, inscribed with a few hastily scrawled words, the handwriting familiar yet forceful, and "Do not worry. Guard the house. Trust me." Beneath the 3rd brick in the western corner of the kitchen, it was a message from Su Xuanji. He had somehow managed to communicate from the Jingzhou prison. Zhou Yurong felt her eyes welling with tears, suppressing her excitement, and immediately instructed Yunxiu to search the kitchen. Before long, Yunxiu returned, cradling a small, securely wrapped iron box. Zhou Yurong trembled as she opened it, revealing not a ledger, but several secret letters and a list. The correspondence clearly pointed towards the Minister of War and several officials she had vaguely heard of, all closely connected to a particular prince. The contents detailed the routes and timings for the distribution of grain and the trafficking of military supplies. Moreover, the list contained names of several seemingly inconsequential minor leaders from the Chaobang and low-ranking military officers, one of whom was the very witness who had implicated Su Xuanji today. Additionally, there was a small, unassuming black iron token, etched with a peculiar totem. In that instant, Zhou Yurong comprehended the gravity of the situation. This was Su Xuanji's true contingency plan. He had anticipated the backlash from his adversaries, perhaps even deliberately revealed a flaw to draw them out. These were the crucial pieces of evidence that could turn the tide. He had instructed her to guard the house and trust him, while he had already set his own plans in motion. She clutched the items tightly to her chest, as if holding the most precious treasure. At this moment, She was no longer merely the benefactor who accepted his protection, but rather a partner fighting alongside him. However, just as her emotions began to settle and she prepared to examine the evidence closely, a faint sound suddenly echoed from outside, a subtle noise. As if a tile had been stepped on. Zhou Yorong's body stiffened, and she abruptly extinguished the candle beside her. In the darkness, she held her breath, hearing the almost imperceptible sound of something landing, along with the barely audible footsteps approaching her door. Someone was infiltrating Sue's residence at night. Was it in pursuit of the item she held in her possession? The darkness enveloped the room like thick ink, instantly saturating every corner. The previously racing heart, still fluttering from excitement, was now gripped tightly by icy fear. The footsteps were exceedingly light, akin to a cat treading on snow, yet imbued with a trained precision and an oppressive aura, silently drawing near her door. They were after the iron box she had just acquired. How could they have detected it so swiftly? Or did the household already have spies in place? A cold sweat broke out on Zhou Yorong's back. Her heart raced, nearly leaping from her chest. She bit down hard on her lower lip, forcing herself to remain calm, her mind racing. Call for help? There was no time. That would immediately expose her possession of something important. Hide? The room, though spacious, offered no secure refuge.
Confront?
That would be akin to striking a stone with an egg. In a flash, she recalled Su Xuanji's words, protect the home, trust me, and the hints he had casually let slip regarding the layout of the residence. The footsteps had paused outside her door. A hand gently rested on the door panel, seemingly testing the waters to push it open. Zhou Yorong hesitated no longer. She crouched down and, relying on memory, felt for an inconspicuous protrusion on the inner side of the bed's footboard, pressing it with force. A soft mechanical click resonated. Simultaneously, the door was pushed open a crack, and a shadow glided in like a wraith. Just as the shadow stepped into the inner room, a flurry of piercing sounds erupted from deep within the bed curtains above her head. Several short crossbow bolts shot forth, aimed directly at the shadow's vital points. The shadow, clearly taken aback by the intricacy of the mechanism, recoiled sharply and with a flash of cold steel, deflected most of the bolts. Yet one grazed his shoulder, drawing a line of blood. A muffled groan pierced the darkness. Seizing the opportunity, Zhou Yorong rolled fiercely to the side, clutching the iron box, and dove beneath the heavy pearwood table, simultaneously shouting, "Assassin! Someone come!" Her voice shattered the night's silence. Immediate chaos ensued outside, footsteps and shouts of the guards ringing out. "Protect the lady!" The wounded shadow, realizing he had been discovered, showed no inclination to fight, and with a swift movement, darted toward the window, shattering the frame, and vanished into the dense night.
Chase!
Commanded the leader of the guards, his voice laced with urgency and anger. The footsteps hurried away, and the light of torches quickly illuminated the courtyard. Yun Xiao and several maids, pale with fright, rushed into the room, holding up candlesticks. "My lady, are you all right?" Zhou Yorong emerged from beneath the table, her hair slightly disheveled, her complexion pale, yet she forced herself to remain composed. "I am fine." Her gaze fell to the iron box in her arms, intact and undamaged, and she finally breathed a sigh of relief, though her hands and feet still trembled slightly. The leader of the guards soon returned, kneeling on one knee to apologize. "I am incompetent," allowing the thief to escape. That individual possesses remarkable skill and is exceedingly familiar with the alleys outside the residence. "Could you discern their stature or appearance?"
Zhou Yorong inquired,
her voice still tinged with hoarseness. "The night was too dark and their movements too swift. I could not see clearly. However, the shoulder is injured, and I have dispatched someone to follow the blood trail, while also enhancing the security of the residence." "Well done." Zhou Yorong steadied herself. "What transpired tonight must not be divulged, but we must immediately notify the Jingzhaoyin office." She paused, then amended. "We must find a way to send word to the palace, informing them of the attack, as the thief's target is clear and their skills suggest a military background." Su Xuanji remained imprisoned, and she could not fully trust Jingzhao in Feng Qiong's ambiguous attitude. Directly bringing this to the attention of the court might exert more pressure and deter those behind the scenes from acting recklessly. Understood. The leader of the guard's eyes flickered with surprise and respect as he took his leave. After this scare, Zhou Yurong found herself utterly unable to sleep. She instructed Yun Xiu to relight the lamp, holding the iron box tightly to her chest as she sat beneath its glow, her thoughts tumultuous. How dare they invade the official residence of a court official at night with such audacity? Such recklessness indicated that they had reached a point of desperation. With Su Xuanji imprisoned, she feared he was not entirely safe. She had to take action. As dawn broke, she had made her decision. She donned a simple yet dignified outfit, carefully transcribing the confidential letters and list from the iron box. The originals were to be wrapped in waterproof oilcloth and hidden in a secret compartment beneath an old plum tree in the courtyard. The iron token she kept close to her person. Then, she ordered a carriage to be prepared. "My lady, where are you going?" Yun Xiu asked, her voice laced with concern. "To the Prince of Huainan's residence." Zhou Yurong replied calmly, her gaze resolute. Yun Xiu gasped, "My lady, just yesterday." "Miss Su, it is precisely because she visited yesterday." Zhou Yurong looked at her pale reflection in the mirror, picked up rouge, and gently applied it to her cheeks to appear less fragile. "Some performances must be seen through to the end. They wish to probe my depths and stir the waters. I shall go and let them see clearly." She was prepared to take a gamble. A gamble on the role the Prince of Huainan's residence played in this matter. On whether the Princess, Xie, was aware, and on whether she could uncover any flaw or at least confound her adversaries. The carriage set off once more towards the Prince of Huainan's residence. In stark contrast to the previous day's desolation, today the Prince's residence bustled with activity. Clearly, news of Su Xuanji's imprisonment had spread, and people from all sides flocked to inquire, curry favor, or simply observe the spectacle. The doorkeeper, upon seeing her, appeared even more astonished than the day before, yet did not dare to delay, hastily going inside to announce her arrival. Soon, a capable matron from Princess Xie's side personally came to greet her, all smiles but with an air of scrutiny. "Madam Su, please come in. The princess has been speaking of you. How fortunate that you have arrived." As she made her way inside, many guests cast their eyes upon her, whispering amongst themselves. The princess, resplendent in her finery, met Zhou Yurong in the flower hall. Upon seeing her, she warmly took her hand, her tone filled with concern. "My dear child, why have you come? Is it about Tang Sun? Alas, what a calamity has befallen us. It sends shivers down my spine. Fear not. The prince has already sent someone to inquire. Surely there is some misunderstanding." Zhou Yurong's eyes glistened with unshed tears as she lowered her gaze. Portraying just the right amount of helplessness and dependence, her voice choked. "Your Highness, I truly do not know what to do. Last night, thieves invaded the residence, and I was so frightened that I could not sleep a wink. After much contemplation, I thought to seek your guidance." As she spoke, her body trembled slightly, embodying the essence of someone overly startled. The princess comforted her by patting her hand, though her gaze swept over Zhou Yurong with sharpness, as if assessing the truth of her words and her state. "Such a thing has occurred. What is the Jingzhaoyin doing, allowing thieves to be so rampant? Rest assured, I will ensure the prince looks into this. As for Tang Sun, you need not worry. The innocent will always clear their name." Just then, a voice was heard from outside, announcing the arrival of Zhao Shi. He had evidently hurried over upon hearing of Zhou Yurong's presence. After a few days' absence, he appeared even more gaunt and haggard, dark circles under his eyes. Seeing Zhou Yurong in such a fragile and frightened state, tears glistening in her eyes, he paused, an expression of complex emotions crossing his face. "Mother, Madam Su."
His voice was dry.
Zhou Yurong raised her tearful eyes, and upon seeing him, seemed to shrink back in alarm, timidly calling out, "Young master," before lowering her head, using a handkerchief to dab at her tears, refraining from saying more. This display of utter dependence on the royal residence, appearing lost and helpless, seemed to somewhat please Xie, while it only deepened Zhao Shi's anguish. The princess offered a few words of comfort before saying, "Xiar, please accompany Madame Su and converse with her to ease her mind. I shall go check on the preparations for the banquet." She had deftly found an excuse to depart, thereby creating some space. Within the floral hall, only Zhou Yurong and Zhao Xia remained, along with several maidservants standing with their heads bowed. A heavy silence enveloped the air, laden with awkwardness and tension. Yu Xiaoxia struggled to speak, his voice hoarse. Are you all right? Last night, Zhou Yorong lifted her tear-filled eyes to gaze at him, and abruptly interrupted. Her voice low yet distinctly clear, tinged with a desperate lament. Young master, do you know why that horse was startled on the hunting grounds? Zhao Xiao's body shook violently, his complexion turning as pale as parchment. Disbelief etched across his face as he stared at her. She remembers? She had been feigning all along. Zhou Yorong noted the intensity of his reaction with a cold smile in her heart. Though her exterior maintained a facade of frail helplessness as her tears cascaded even more fiercely, I have been haunted by dreams of that moment. Blurry yet filled with dread of you, young master. Tell me, is there someone who seeks to harm me? Her words, a mixture of truth and deception, highlighted the doubts while preserving the guise of blurred memory, resembling a frightened woman's wild conjectures stemming from nightmares. Zhao Xiao's eyes wrestled with a tumult of emotions, guilt, fear, and regret surged within him, nearly overwhelming him. He abruptly stepped back, unable to endure her gaze and inquiries, averting his eyes as he muttered, "That was an accident." He almost fled in panic, stumbling as he hurried away, as if pursued by malevolent spirits. Watching him retreat in such haste, Zhou Yorong gradually composed herself, wiping away the traces of tears from her face, lifting her teacup to sip the now cold tea, her eyes filled with icy resolve. Indeed, it was he. Even if he were not the mastermind, he was certainly an accomplice. Her earlier statement had acted as a stone cast into a pond, not only shattering Zhao Xiao's defenses, but likely to reach the ears of certain individuals in no time. She set down her teacup, preparing to take her leave when a maid entered, carrying refreshments. As she passed by Zhou Yorong, her foot seemed to catch on the carpet, causing the tray to tilt.
Ah!
The maid exclaimed, desperately attempting to steady herself, yet a few drops of scalding tea splashed onto Zhou Yorong's hand. I am to blame. I am to blame. The maid, frightened, hastily knelt and bowed her head. Zhou Yorong winced in pain, her hand instantly turning a shade of red. You clumsy fool. The princess returned at that moment, witnessing the scene and reprimanding sharply before anxiously grasping Zhou Yorong's hand. Quick, go wash it with cold water, and fetch some burn ointment. After a flurry of activity, Zhou Yorong's hand was smeared with a cooling salve. The princess offered her a few words of comfort before personally escorting her out of the estate. As the carriage departed from the royal residence, Zhou Yorong leaned against the carriage wall, gazing at the fleeting streets outside, gradually unfolding her right hand, which had been burned. In her palm lay a tiny, crumpled paper ball. It had been stealthily placed in her hand by the maid who had stumbled, seemingly in a flurry to assist her with the spilled tea. Her heart raced once more as she quickly unfolded the paper. It bore only 4 tiny characters, the ink still fresh. Jingxin Monastery, urgent. The paper in her palm felt like a burning coal, igniting a tightness in Zhou Yorong's chest. Jingxin Monastery? Again, it was Jingxin Monastery. Just yesterday, Su Xuanji's guards had mentioned Su Yunhe's frequent visits to this place, and now this mysterious note pointed there. Was it a trap? Or was the maid, who risked her life to deliver the note, truly an ally rather than an adversary? Whose message was she conveying?
Sones?
Or perhaps someone within the royal residence who was dissatisfied with the current situation or had connections to Su Xuanji. As the carriage rumbled along the bluestone road, Zhou Yorong's mind raced with thoughts.
To go or not to go?
The risks were immense. The sender had managed to deliver the note directly into her hands, indicating they were well aware of her movements. Jingxin Monastery was situated outside the city, relatively desolate. If it were indeed a trap, it would be a perilous situation. Yet, what if it were a crucial lead concerning Su Xuanji's safety, a key to unraveling the predicament? The maid's act of bravery did not seem like a ruse. She recalled her father's words about the key to the resolution possibly lying with a witness. She also remembered the list Su Xuanji had left behind. Could it be connected to a name on that list? Turn around, Zhou Yorong suddenly commanded, her tone calm. Leave the city and head to Jingxin Monastery. The coachman hesitated. Madam, the master has instructed otherwise. I will shoulder all consequences, Zhou Yorong asserted firmly. Take the back roads, quickly. The carriage silently veered off, departing from the bustling streets and heading toward a secluded direction outside the city. Zhou Yurong instructed Yunxiu to retrieve a plain hooded cloak and wrap herself securely, concealing her appearance. Approximately an hour later, the carriage halted at the foot of a mountain. Jingxin Monastery nestled halfway up the slope, its green tiles and white walls concealed among the towering pines and cypress trees, the distant sound of bells ringing, creating an atmosphere of serene solitude, almost excessively desolate. Zhou Yurong brought only Yunxiu and the most skilled guard, ascending the stone steps on foot. The mountain wind brushed past, carrying the scent of pine needles and incense. The monastery door stood ajar, with few patrons in sight. A young nun was tidying the courtyard. Upon seeing them, she pressed her palms together in greeting, her expression neutral. "Esteemed nun, we wish to light incense and pray for safety," Zhou Yurong spoke in a lowered voice. The young nun glanced at them, particularly at the guard, then lowered her eyes and said, "Please follow me." Inside the main hall, the Buddha statue loomed solemnly, surrounded by swirling incense smoke. Zhou Yurong complied, lighting incense and kneeling on a mat, her gaze discreetly scanning the surroundings. Apart from them, there was only an elderly woman dressed in coarse cloth, seemingly occupied with polishing the lamps in a corner. Everything felt eerily calm. What was the intention of the person who had sent the note, urging her to come here? After completing her offering, the young nun spoke, "The dining hall has fresh tea. Would you like to rest a moment?" Zhou Yurong's heart stirred, and she nodded, "Thank you." Esteemed nun. They passed through a corridor and entered the dining hall. It was not mealtime, and the hall was empty, save for a few simple wooden tables and benches. The young nun served tea, and then exited. Zhou Yurong lifted the teacup, but did not drink. She merely sat in silence, waiting. As time trickled by, the only sounds were the rustling bamboo leaves outside and the increasing rhythm of her heartbeat. Just as she was about to resign herself to the futility of her visit, a small door on the side of the dining hall creaked open slightly. An elderly, haggard face emerged. It was the same old woman who had been polishing the lamps in the main hall. Her eyes were wide with panic as she quickly looked around, and upon spotting Zhou Yurong, a glimmer of urgency ignited in her gaze. Her lips trembled, seemingly wanting to say something, yet paralyzed by fear. Zhou Yurong immediately stood up. However, the old woman dared not enter. She abruptly stretched out her hand, pointing toward a direction in the back courtyard, then quickly withdrew her head, the small door silently closing as if it had never been opened. The back courtyard? Zhou Yurong hesitated no longer, swiftly leading Yunxiu and the guard toward the direction the old woman had indicated. The back courtyard was even more secluded than the front, with dense vegetation, and only a few dilapidated meditation rooms appeared to be storing miscellaneous items. In a corner by a well, a few pieces of old women's clothing lay scattered. Zhou Yurong's gaze swept over them, and suddenly, on one gray tunic, she spotted a small patch of deep brown, dried and hardened, a stain resembling blood. Her heart raced. She hastened forward to pick up the garment. The fabric was coarse, clearly belonging to a servant of the monastery. The bloodstain was located on the shoulder, not large, yet utterly chilling. Was this the maid who had delivered the note? Had she been injured? Or worse, met her demise? Search this area thoroughly, Zhou Yurong commanded in a hushed tone to the guard. He immediately began to scan the surroundings with heightened vigilance, while Yunxiu nervously shielded her side. Soon, the guard discovered fresh disturbances in the soil behind the well. He drew his short blade and carefully began to dig, his expression suddenly shifting. "Madam," Zhou Yurong hastily approached, only to find, beneath the soft earth, a pale, rigid hand protruding ominously. The sleeve revealed it belonged to the elderly woman who had just guided them. Remarkably, she had met a violent end immediately after providing directions. A wave of nausea surged within Zhou Yurong, yet she stifled her terror and revulsion, commanding, "Dig it up." The guards swiftly cleared the loose soil, unveiling the corpse, which bore a grotesque, purple-black mark around the neck, her eyes wide open in terror. It was indeed the same woman. The assailant had acted with alarming swiftness and brutality. It was evident that someone had been covertly monitoring the activities of Jingxin Monastery. "Madam, it is unwise to linger here," the guard urged, gripping his weapon tightly and scanning the shadowy depths of the surrounding woods with vigilance. Zhou Yurong's complexion paled. her heart pounding fiercely, yet she forced herself to remain composed. She knelt down, swiftly searching the corpse. The fact that her assailant had resorted to murder and silencing indicated that the old nun must have possessed some vital secret. Her fingertips grazed a hard object concealed within a hidden pouch at the waist. Quickly, she retrieved a small amulet wrapped in oilcloth. There was no time for scrutiny. She tucked it into her sleeve and rose, exclaiming, "Let us go." The three of them hurriedly retraced their steps, their footsteps urgent. As they traversed the corridor and were about to return to the front courtyard, the door of a nearby meditation room creaked open. A woman dressed in exquisite informal attire, adorned with a veil, stepped out, followed by two demure maids. Although she appeared as a common pilgrim, her commanding presence and the glimpses of luxurious fabrics hinted at her noble status. Both parties froze in astonishment upon making eye contact. The woman's gaze fell upon Zhou Yorong's slightly flustered expression and the vigilant guards behind her, as the face beneath the veil seemed to turn towards her. Zhou Yorong's heart raced. The figure and demeanor were unmistakable, and as a gust of mountain wind swept by, it slightly lifted the corner of the woman's veil. Although it was but a fleeting glimpse, Zhou Yorong clearly discerned a well-maintained, dignified visage, now tinged with an air of suspicion and cold severity. The Princess of Huainan. What was she doing here? At this very moment, when a murder had just occurred, why had she chosen to appear so inconspicuously in this remote meditation room? The moment their eyes met, the atmosphere thickened, suffused with unspoken tension. The princess evidently recognized her. The gaze beneath her veil sharpened into icy daggers, revealing unabashed astonishment and scrutiny, which was swiftly suppressed, transforming into a perfectly measured surprise. "Madame Su, what brings you here?" Zhou Yorong's heart raced, alarm bells ringing in her mind, yet she endeavored to maintain her composure, even allowing a hint of appropriate fatigue and sorrow to surface. "Ah, it is your highness. I have been feeling unsettled and sought solace in the monastery, praying for the Buddha's blessings so that my husband may soon clear his name." She slightly bent her knee in a courteous gesture, her voice trembling. "Have you come to offer your prayers as well, your highness?" The princess's gaze swept over her, then flicked to the guards and Yunxiu behind her, seemingly assessing the veracity of her words. After a brief moment of contemplation, she sighed, her tone returning to its usual gentleness. "Indeed, there have been many troubles at home lately, and I came to seek peace of mind." Pausing as if casually, she inquired, "Madame Su, have you encountered a certain Master Tai here, a woman about 60 years of age? Each time I come, I speak with her about the teachings of Buddhism." Zhou Yorong's hand in her sleeve tightened abruptly, her nails digging into her palm. She was probing. She was searching for the recently murdered old nun. "I have not seen her." Zhou Yorong lowered her eyelashes, concealing the tumult of emotions beneath. "I merely came to offer my prayers and did not disturb the monastery's tranquility." The princess fell silent for a moment, weighing her words, before finally smiling. "If that is the case, I shall not intrude on your meditative state any longer. I must return to the estate." As she spoke, she cast a meaningful glance at Zhou Yorong and led her maids toward the monastery's entrance. Zhou Yorong remained rooted in place until the princess's figure vanished beyond the mountain gate. Then she exhaled a slow breath, her back drenched in cold sweat. "Madam." Yunxiu's voice trembled. "Let us go." Zhou Yorong wasted no time, immediately leading her companions down the mountain. The carriage sped back to the city. Inside the carriage, Zhou Yorong dared to retrieve the amulet she had found on the old nun. With trembling hands, she unwrapped the oilcloth, revealing not a talisman, but a thin roll of paper as delicate as cicada wings. Upon unfolding it, she discovered it was densely filled with minuscule handwriting, chronicling dates, sums of money, and names resembling code. At the bottom of the paper, an address was inscribed, Yeshixiang, the 7th household in the southern part of the city. Zhou Yorong's heart raced once more. This resembled a private ledger. And that address. She suddenly recalled the list left by Su Xuanji. One of the names marked with a contact point seemed to be in the vicinity of Yeshixiang. Could it be that this old nun was a crucial witness? Or perhaps an intermediary responsible for relaying messages and safeguarding accounts? Was the Princess of Huainan there to silence her? Or to retrieve this item? Countless clues intertwined in her mind, gradually sketching a vague, yet chilling outline. She needed to rush to that address immediately. "We are not going to the Duke's residence," she instructed the coachman. "Head straight to Yeshixiang. Take a detour and be cautious of anyone following us." The carriage turned once more, merging into the intricate streets of the capital. However, just as the carriage was about to enter Yeshixiang, a cacophony of frantic shouting and weeping erupted ahead. A thick column of black smoke billowed into the sky. "There's a flood! There's a flood! Hurry! Extinguish the fire!" Someone screamed hoarsely. Zhou Yurong abruptly lifted the curtain of the carriage, her heart plummeting as she recognized the location of the fire. It was indeed Yeshixiang, and specifically, in the direction of the 7th household. The flames illuminated her pale face. The adversary's speed always seemed a step ahead of her. The blazing inferno painted the southern sky with an ominous orange hue, thick smoke billowing, intertwined with the crackling of splintering wood and the terrified cries of the crowd. The carriage could not approach the entrance of Yeshixiang at all, blocked by the panicked throngs and the firefighters rushing to the scene. "Madam, we can't get through ahead. The fire is too intense," the coachman called back anxiously. Zhou Yurong clutched the edge of the carriage window tightly, her knuckles turning white. As she gazed at the voracious flames consuming everything, her heart sinking deeper into despair. The crucial address of the 7th household, the place that might have concealed a witness or original records, was being ruthlessly engulfed by the flames. Was it an accident? Or yet another precise act of silencing? The ruthlessness and decisiveness of the adversary left no room for mercy. "Madam, we..." Yunxio's voice trembled in fear, gripping her sleeve tightly.
Get out!
Zhou Yurong forcefully pushed open the carriage door, her voice hoarse from tension and the smoke's irritation. "We need to see." She had to confirm. Even if only ashes remained, she needed to know what had transpired. The guards struggled to forge a path ahead, protecting them as they squeezed through the chaotic crowd. The heat waves assaulted them, scorching their skin. The sounds of weeping, splashing water, and the deafening crashes of collapsing buildings grew louder as they approached Yeshixiang, revealing increasingly horrific scenes. The narrow alley had transformed into a sea of flames, several households caught in the conflagration as people cried out, desperately salvaging their meager possessions or hopelessly watching their homes being consumed. The 7th household was the epicenter of the blaze, nearly reduced to its frame, and the water from the firefighters evaporated instantly upon contact, rendering it impossible to approach. "It's useless. It's all over." An ash-covered old soldier sat slumped on the ground, murmuring, "Those inside are likely long gone." Zhou Yurong's heart sank, and she grasped the arm of an officer busy maintaining order, urgently asking, "Officer, is there anyone from this household who managed to escape?" The officer, his eyes stinging from the smoke, irritably swatted her hand away. "Who knows?" The fire spread too rapidly and violently. It seemed to ignite from within simultaneously. By the time it was discovered, it was already too late. Not even a rat could escape. Simultaneously igniting? This felt more like arson. At that moment, a sudden commotion erupted at the periphery of the crowd, as several officials clad in the livery of the Jingzhao Yin's office sternly commanded the onlookers to disperse. The leader, with a grim countenance, bellowed, "Stand aside. Clear the way. The Jingzhao Yin's office is conducting an investigation." Unauthorized individuals stepped back. They forcefully advanced towards the smoldering ruins of the 7th residence, aggressively driving away the neighbors and soldiers who were attempting to extinguish the flames. Lord Feng has issued an order. This site involves a significant case and is to be fully taken over by the Jingzhao Yin. All individuals must refrain from approaching. Violators will be treated as accomplices. The leading official barked, and his subordinates promptly began to establish a perimeter, encircling the debris with heavy vigilance. Significant case? Taken over? Alarm bells rang in Zhou Yurong's mind. Feng Qiong's men had arrived with alarming swiftness, as if they had been lurking nearby, awaiting this moment. They were not here to extinguish the fire or investigate. Rather, their intent was to seal off the scene and obliterate any remaining evidence. She watched helplessly as the officials pretended to examine the periphery of the fire site, all the while driving away those who might possess crucial information, leaving her heart chilled to the core. The unseen puppeteer wielded such power that they could brazenly manipulate the government. She could no longer remain there. She felt out of place, and should Feng Qiong's men recognize her, it would surely lead to unforeseen complications. Casting one last glance at the blazing ruins, she clenched her teeth and murmured, "We must leave." Upon returning to the carriage, silence enveloped them. Zhou Yurong leaned against the carriage wall, her eyes closed, her hand tightly clutching the fragile, gossamer-like account scroll and the dark iron token, her fingertips icy. It seemed that the leads had once again vanished. Witnesses may have perished in the flames, and the evidence in her possession, lacking the original documents as corroboration, was rendered significantly less potent. The adversary was relentlessly pressing forward, each move lethal, and she, it appeared, was always a step behind. A profound sense of helplessness seized her. The carriage rolled back to the Su residence, its gates still firmly shut, the atmosphere oppressive. Just as she dismounted, the steward approached with a grave expression. "Madam, you have returned at last. There are visitors from the palace." Zhou Yurong's heart sank. From the palace? It is a lady-in-waiting who serves the Empress, and she has been waiting for quite some time. The Empress? At this juncture? Zhou Yurong took a deep breath, adjusted her slightly disheveled hair and attire, and hurried towards the flower hall. Inside, a dignified middle-aged female official, clad in elegant attire and bearing a solemn expression, was seated, sipping tea. Upon noticing Zhou Yurong's entrance, she set down her teacup, rose slightly, and inclined her head. "Madam Su, thank you for your patience, esteemed lady." Zhou Yurong returned the gesture, her heart racing with uncertainty, unsure if this was a harbinger of fortune or misfortune. The lady-in-waiting's gaze lingered for a moment on Zhou Yurong's somewhat pale face. Her tone calm. "The Empress has expressed great concern regarding the matter of Su Xiozhuan, and, knowing that you have been startled recently, has instructed me to check on you and to bestow upon you some calming herbal remedies." A young eunuch behind her immediately presented several exquisite brocade boxes. "I am deeply grateful for the Empress's kindness." Zhou Yurong quickly expressed her thanks, yet her heart remained tense. Was the Empress's gesture merely one of comfort, or did it bear deeper implications? The lady-in-waiting gestured for others to withdraw, leaving only the two of them in the flower hall. Stepping closer, she lowered her voice, maintaining a calm demeanor, yet imbued with an undeniable gravity. "The Empress has instructed me to convey a message to you." Zhou Yurong held her breath, focusing intently. His Majesty is aware of the turbulent undercurrents within the capital. However, a body of water that is too clear harbors no fish. To catch the big fish, one must possess patience and ensure the bait remains intact. Zhou Yurong's eyes widened as she met the lady-in-waiting's deep, tranquil gaze. His Majesty is aware. To catch the big fish. The phrase struck her like a bolt of lightning in the dark night, illuminating her chaotic thoughts. The Emperor was not deceived. He may have already sensed the transport of goods and even deeper conspiracies, merely waiting for the right moment to ensnare the mastermind behind it all. And Su Xuanji was likely the bait he had cast, perhaps even the one who volunteered to wield the rod. Thus, the Emperor allowed the Jingzhao Yin to investigate, a protective isolation that also served to lower the guard of those behind the scenes. Moreover, the Empress's reminder underscored the necessity of keeping the bait unharmed. Su Xuanji's safety was a crucial element in the Emperor's plan. Hence, the Empress dispatched someone at this delicate moment, both to comfort her and to caution her against taking unilateral action, lest she inadvertently alert the snake and jeopardize Su Xuanji. It turned out she was not fighting alone. Her husband was not merely a captive at the mercy of others. "I shall heed the Empress's counsel," she responded with a deep bow, her voice tinged with an almost imperceptible quiver, "and I shall guard the home front, patiently awaiting the clouds to part and the moon to shine." A glimmer of admiration flickered in the lady-in-waiting's eyes as she nodded slightly. "You are a wise woman. In that case, I shall return to the palace with my report." After bidding farewell to the palace envoy, Zhou Yurong stood alone in the flower hall, unable to find her composure for an extended period. The Empress's hint was like a calming balm, yet it also made her acutely aware of the perilous situation. Su Xuanji was the bait, signifying that he was currently at the eye of the storm, at risk of being torn apart by the big fish. She could not remain passively waiting. She needed to take action that would align with the Emperor's strategy, while maximizing Su Xuanji's safety. Her gaze fell once more upon the scroll of accounts and the dark iron token. though the original might be destroyed. This copy and the token could still hold the key. Especially the token. What did it truly represent? She repeatedly traced the cold iron, the strange totem appearing vaguely familiar, as if she had encountered it in a certain obscure tome. Suddenly, she sprang to her feet and hastened towards the study. Su Xuanji's study was replete with an extensive collection of books, encompassing historical texts, literary anthologies, and a plethora of local chronicles, cultural treatises, and even bizarre anecdotes. She lit the candles and meticulously searched through the volumes, recalling her memories. Time slipped away, and the sky outside darkened. Finally, in a dusty volume titled Chronicles of Exotic Lands from a Bygone Dynasty, she discovered a similar totem. The text revealed that it was the sacred emblem used in the rituals of the now-extinct nomadic tribe known as the Dirong in the north. This tribe was famed for its iron smelting and martial prowess, having once descended south to plunder during the twilight of the previous dynasty, only to be exterminated. Their people scattering, and their sacred emblem should have perished along with them. How could this token bear the sacred emblem of the Dirong? And why did it appear amidst the clues of the grain transport corruption case? Dirong weaponry, a shocking thought struck her like thunder. Could it be that what those individuals were trafficking was not merely ordinary weaponry, but arms related to the remnants of the Dirong? Possibly even superior weaponry forged using their secret methods. Was that why such a clandestine totem was employed as a token? If this were true, the case was far more complex than mere corruption. Colluding with the remnants of the tribe and trafficking in superior arms was a heinous crime tantamount to treason. No wonder they were so deranged, going to great lengths to conceal the truth. Zhou Yurong's hand trembled as she clutched the book, cold sweat soaking her garments once more. She had to immediately convey this discovery to Su Xuanji. But how could she deliver the message? The Jingzhou office's prison was surely under strict surveillance. Madam. Yun Xiao suddenly burst through the door, her face pale with alarm, holding an unsigned letter. The gatekeeper just found this at the corner gate, tucked in the door crack. Another anonymous letter. Zhou Yurong's heart raced as she snatched it away and tore it open. There was but a single line, the handwriting identical to Su Xuanji's previous note. At the hour of the rat, 3/4 past, at the entrance of Lu Street. Wait. He was able to arrange a meeting with her outside. At the hour of the rat, 3/4 past, all was silent. The capital had long since imposed a curfew, the streets deserted, save for the monotonous echo of the night watchman's clapper and the occasional distant barking of dogs, deepening the night's shadows. Zhou Yurong wrapped herself in a dark cloak, pulling the hood low, nearly blending into the shadows of the Su residence's rear wall. Yun Xiao and a guard stood nervously by her side, holding their breath in anticipation. Her heart thundered in her chest, a mix of expectation, fear, and an indescribable excitement coursing through her veins. The handwriting on that letter she would never mistake. It was unmistakably his. But how could he possibly escape from the prison of Jingzhou Prefecture? Was the appointment tonight genuine or merely another intricately laid trap? Time languished in the agonizing wait, each breath feeling interminably prolonged. Just as she was about to succumb to despair, a faint, bird-like whistle drifted from the distant, shadowy alleyway. The guard's body tensed instantly, whispering, "Madam, it's a signal." Zhou Yurong inhaled the icy night air deeply, suppressing the tumult of emotions within her, and nodded. The guard quietly approached the alleyway to investigate, returning shortly with a hushed, "It's safe." No longer hesitating, Zhou Yurong stepped briskly out of the shadows, moving towards the unfathomable darkness of the alley. As she crossed the threshold into the gloom, a warm, powerful hand suddenly reached out, grasping her wrist with precision, gently pulling her into the depths of the shadows.
Ah!
She gasped, unexpectedly colliding with a solid, warm chest. The familiar, crisp scent enveloped her, mingled with a hint of blood and the damp, musty aroma characteristic of prisons. "Don't be afraid, it's me," a deep, hoarse voice whispered in her ear, laced with a barely perceptible weariness, yet strikingly clear in its resonance. It was Su Xuanji. It truly was him. Zhou Yurong jerked her head up, and in the dim light, she finally recognized the face so close before her. He appeared somewhat gaunt, a shadow of stubble gracing his chin, bloodshot eyes revealing his fatigue. Yet his gaze remained astonishingly bright in the darkness, calm, sharp and intensely focused on her. Words clamored in her throat, but she could utter not a single one, merely staring at him, her eyes brimming with unshed tears. "How did you get out? From the prison?" Her voice trembled, tinged with fear. "Feng Qiong wouldn't dare to truly harm me. It was merely a charade, and arrangements were made within the prison."
Susuan di spoksukintin.
Yet his fingers instinctively tightened around her cool wrist, as if to confirm her tangible presence. "There's little time. Let us keep this brief. Did you visit the Jingxin monastery today? Did you see the princess? The fire in Yeshixiang?" He knew everything. Zhou Yurong quelled her astonishment and nodded vigorously, swiftly recounting her experiences with the old nun's hints, the sudden appearance of the princess of Huainan, the raging inferno in Yeshixiang, and the empress's insinuations, striving to convey it all as clearly and concisely as possible before producing the copied accounts and the iron token. "And this I found in the exotic geography. This totem appears to be the sacred emblem of the ancient Dirong tribe. I suspect the arms they are trafficking may be related." Su Xuanji took the items, swiftly scanning them in the dark. When he heard the words Dirong's sacred emblem, his expression grew suddenly stern, and an aura of cold resolve enveloped him. "Dirong," he repeated in a low voice, his fingertips tightening around the token until his knuckles whitened. "So it is. I should have anticipated this." He abruptly lifted his gaze, his eyes piercing as they locked onto hers. "Yurong, you have accomplished something monumental. This matter is far more serious than mere embezzlement. What lies beneath is likely treason." "Treason?" Zhou Yurong inhaled sharply, though she had suspected as much. Hearing it confirmed by him still sent chills coursing through her. "Although the original account has been destroyed, this copy and the token are crucial leads. You understand the Empress's insinuation. His Majesty intends to lure out the big fish, but we must act faster." Su Xuanji spoke rapidly. "The enemy's recent actions to silence witnesses indicate that the moment of truth is approaching. They may resort to desperate measures, potentially endangering His Majesty." He pondered momentarily before swiftly deciding, "I will take the account copy and the token with me. I have a way to ensure they reach the Emperor." Becoming a death warrant. "Tomorrow morning, you must immediately find a way to inform Inspector Liu of the Daziyuan about the Dirong sacred emblem. He is the son of the Imperial tutor, known for his integrity and loyalty to His Majesty, and he will know how to proceed."
"And you?"
Zhou Yurong grasped his sleeve anxiously. "Isn't it more dangerous for you to return to the prison? If they discover you, they wouldn't dare to act against me openly." Su Xuanji interrupted her, his tone resolute. "Since His Majesty has used me as bait, he would not allow me to be easily devoured. Moreover, my presence in the prison will cause them to lower their guard. You, on the outside, must remain vigilant and protect yourself. That will be the greatest aid to me." As he spoke, he suddenly wrapped his arms around her, drawing her gently into an embrace. This embrace was sudden and brief, yet imbued with undeniable strength and warmth, instantly dispelling the night's chill and the unease within her heart. "Trust me," he whispered into her ear, his breath warm. "Soon, everything will come to an end." With that, he released her without a trace of reluctance, gazing deeply into her eyes as if to etch her image into his memory, before turning and blending into the thick darkness, vanishing as if he had never existed. Only the lingering warmth and scent in her embrace attested that their heart-stopping moment together was no mere dream. Zhou Yurong stood alone at the cold alley's entrance, staring into the direction he had disappeared for what felt like an eternity. The coarse texture of his clothing still lingered on her fingertips, and his low "trust me" echoed in her ears. The taut string within her heart seemed to finally find solace. The following morning, Zhou Yurong acted upon their plan. Rather than going herself, she had the most capable guard discreetly deliver an anonymous letter and a page depicting the Dirong sacred emblem to Inspector Liu's residence at the Daziyuan. The letter contained only a few terse words, highlighting the connection between the arms trafficking case and the sacred emblem of the Dirong, hinting at possible treasonous activities. What followed was a tense waiting game. However, the storm did not directly descend upon the Daziyuan or Jingyao Prefecture, but erupted in a most unexpected manner. That afternoon, several inspectors jointly submitted a petition, accusing the Deputy Minister of War, Li Chongshan, of embezzlement of military funds, condoning his household's bullying behavior, and a host of other charges. The evidence was irrefutable, and the accusations were compelling. A single stone stirred up 1,000 ripples. Li Chongshan was precisely the deputy minister of war who had maintained close ties with the Huainan prince and had met privately with Zhao Ji numerous times. Also being one of the key figures on Su Xuanji's list suspected of connections to the arms trafficking case. This seemingly personal indictment acted like a precisely honed scalpel, slicing through the intricate web of corruption. His Majesty, enraged, immediately issued an edict to dismiss Li Chongshan and hand him over for investigation by the 3 departments. The news sent shockwaves through the court and the populace. Everyone sensed that this was no simple case of official indictment. The power struggles behind it were unfathomable. On the very night of Li Chongshan's imprisonment, an urgent military report arrived at the palace, stating, Border Patrol troops had intercepted a batch of high-quality military arms attempting to be smuggled out, encountering armed resistance. After a fierce battle, they seized several weapons and captured a few individuals who, upon preliminary interrogation, revealed that these arms were linked to a certain prince in the capital and high-ranking officials in the Ministry of War. Moreover, the weapons were of a peculiar design, exceptionally sharp, suspected to have been forged using foreign secret techniques. Although the military report did not explicitly name the prince and officials, given that Li Chongshan had just fallen from grace, the implications were unmistakable. Treason. The very word hung like a heavy cloud, instantly casting a shadow over the entire capital. His Majesty convened his ministers that night, with palace lights burning late into the night. The next morning, as dawn broke, a squadron of armor-clad imperial guards surrounded the Huainan prince's residence. Simultaneously, another group rushed to the prison of Jingzhou Prefecture. The prison doors swung open, and Su Xuanji stepped out at a measured pace. He had changed into a clean moon-white ceremonial robe, though he bore signs of fatigue. His eyes sparkled with clarity and sharpness, as if the recent tribulations of imprisonment had not diminished him in the slightest. A eunuch proclaimed loudly, Su Xuanji, a scholar of the Hanlin Academy, known for his loyalty and diligence, has made significant contributions to the investigation. He is hereby restored to his former position, with additional rewards of gold and silk, and tasked with assisting in the investigation of the arms trafficking case. Thus decreed. I, your humble servant, accept the decree with gratitude. As Su Xuanji bowed to receive the imperial edict, his gaze lifted, traversing the formidable palace walls, and directed towards the direction of home. Almost simultaneously, within the walls of the Huainan prince's residence, the princess, pale and stricken, listened to the butler's incoherent report. Her eyes fell upon the gleaming swords and spears outside the window, and the teacup in her hand shattered upon the ground with a resounding crash. Suddenly, she recalled the seemingly delicate yet unfathomable eyes of Zhou Yorong from the previous day at the Jingxin monastery. It is she. It is indeed she murmured, her eyes brimming with incredulous terror and a hint of despair for having realized too late. Zhao Shi stood beside his mother, his complexion as white as paper, his body trembling slightly. He watched the fierce imperial guards, observed the instant collapse of his mother's demeanor, and remembered Zhou Yorong's tear-filled questioning gaze. It became clear that she remembered everything. She had witnessed their descent into the abyss, and he, unwittingly, had become one of the accomplices who pushed their family into irretrievable ruin. An overwhelming tide of remorse and icy dread engulfed him entirely. News of the imperial guards surrounding the prince's residence spread like wildfire, reaching every corner of the capital in an instant. Once a bustling and prosperous estate, the Huainan prince's residence had transformed into a place shunned by all, a veritable taboo. The scarlet gates were sealed, expressionless guards stood vigil, and the air was thick with a foreboding silence, as if a storm were about to break. Zhou Yorong stood beneath the corridor, gazing at the radiant sunlight that spilled into the courtyard, feeling as if she were in another world. In just a few days, tumultuous waves had surged and receded, leaving behind an inexplicable calm. The sound of footsteps approached from behind, steady and familiar. Zhou Yorong turned to see Su Xuanji striding towards her, bathed in sunlight. He had donned a new azure official's robe, his posture erect, shedding the fatigue of imprisonment. Though traces of weariness lingered in his brow, he bore an undeniable resolve, sharpened by the trials he had endured. Their eyes met, and words were unnecessary. All their worries, fears, and anticipation transformed into a silent tide that surged past, ultimately settling into a tranquil gaze. "I have returned," he said as he stepped before her, his voice low, tinged with an almost imperceptible sigh. Zhou Yurong nodded gently. A multitude of sentiments lodged in her throat, finally coalescing into the simple phrase, "It is good that you are back." Yun Xiao, perceptive as ever, discreetly led all the servants away, leaving the space for the two who had survived the storm to reunite. Su Xuanji's gaze meticulously traced her features. Noting the faint shadows beneath her eyes and her still pallid complexion, his expression darkening slightly. "You have endured much these past few days." Were it not for her deft maneuvering, her daring to gather evidence, and her precise communication of crucial leads, the situation would not have reversed so seamlessly. She was far more resilient and astute than he had imagined. Zhou Yurong shook her head slightly. "I merely did what I was obliged to do." She lifted her eyes to meet his, curiosity woven into her gaze. "What of the prince's estate?" "His Majesty has decreed a thorough investigation into the collusion between the Huainan prince's residence and Li Chongshan, encompassing embezzlement of grain silver, arms trafficking, and even treasonous dealings," Su Xuanji replied, his tone calm yet laden with gravity. "The prince has been confined within his residence, while the princess, Lady Xie, suspected of orchestrating the scheme and silencing multiple lives, has been transferred to the ancestral court for strict custody." Zhou Yurong's heart sank, though she had anticipated such a conclusion. Hearing it articulated still sent a shiver through her. A century-old princely house, once illustrious, had crumbled to dust. "And what of Zhao Shi?" she ultimately inquired. Su Xuanji cast her a sidelong glance, his expression complex but devoid of displeasure, simply stating, "He failed to report his knowledge and participated in concealing the crimes. Though not the mastermind, he cannot escape culpability. His title as heir will be stripped, and he will be confined in the estate, awaiting his fate." He paused before adding, "Su Yunhe, upon learning of the siege, hanged herself that very day." Zhou Yurong fell silent. Su Yunhe, the once delicate figure who had sought to ingratiate herself, ultimately became a pawn, extinguished too soon. The bitterness of it was matched only by the sorrow. With the dust settling, countless destinies lay in ruin behind the scenes. It seems His Majesty had foreseen this? She recalled the Queen's insinuations. Su Xuanji nodded. The accumulation of issues with grain transport has persisted for long, entangled in vast networks. His Majesty has long harbored intentions for reform. Li Chongshan's collusion with the prince's residence, even engaging in clandestine transactions of iron secrets with the remnants of the Di Rong, was a treacherous scheme that touched upon His Majesty's sensitive spots. Fortunately, the late General Qi left behind crucial physical evidence. "I merely happened upon it and became the spark that ignited this conflagration, also serving as a blade in His Majesty's hand." He spoke of it lightly, but Zhou Yurong understood the perilous nature of the endeavor. Any misstep could lead to irreparable disaster. He had either willingly or unwillingly become a piece in the Emperor's game, treading upon a razor's edge. And what of the future? She could not help but express her concern. The major events have been determined. What remains is the reckoning and purging, Su Xuanji replied with a steady tone. In light of this incident, His Majesty will weigh the consequences. We need only to await the outcome in silence. He observed her still furrowed brow and suddenly shifted the topic, his voice softening. The estate has been quiet of late, and I fear you have been startled. Would you care to take a stroll? Zhou Yurong was taken aback. Half an hour later, the carriage rolled out of the Su residence, not heading towards the bustling streets, but rather out of the city, arriving at a secluded riverside meadow on the outskirts of the capital. The spring was truly splendid. The grass was lush, and the orioles soared. The river babbled gently, while the warm sunlight bathed them, dispelling the gloom and oppression of recent days. Su Xuanji dismissed the attendants and walked alongside her on the soft grass. "Do you remember this place?" he suddenly asked. Zhou Yurong glanced around, the scenery unfamiliar, and shook her head. 7 years ago, on that snowy day, your carriage got stuck on the official road just ahead. He pointed to a nearby spot. I was lying in the grass over there, nearly frozen. Zhou Yurong followed his gesture, envisioning the icy scene of that day and the nearly lifeless youth. In truth, I was not entirely unconscious that day. Su Xuanji's voice was calm, tinged with nostalgia. I vaguely saw the opulence of the carriage, noticed the maid dismounting to check, and then you peered out. He halted, turning to face her, his gaze profound as a deep pool. I saw compassion in your eyes, not as an act of charity, but a pure instinct of empathy. Then, you handed a bag of pastries to that maid. Later, I survived on that bag of pastries, struggling all the way to the capital. I worked tirelessly to study, entering the Hanlon Academy not merely to elevate my status, but because... He paused, articulating each word with intent. I wished that one day I could stand before you with dignity, not as a beggar, but in a position worthy of you. I longed to know what kind of life a woman with such profound eyes led. Zhou Yorong was left utterly stunned, her heart feeling as if it had been struck by some force, a blend of sweetness and heat surging within. It turned out that this was not merely a matter of repaying a debt of gratitude. That encounter amidst the snow, that warm pastry, had planted an unwavering seed in the heart of the young man, propelling him through the mire towards her. Thus, after the spring hunt, upon hearing of your amnesia and subsequent withdrawal from the engagement, a faint smile graced his lips, tinged with self-mockery, yet also relief. I knew my opportunity had arrived. My proposal was not entirely impulsive, but rather a long-conceived plan. Sunlight bathed his face, sculpting his handsome features, and in his usually tranquil eyes, her figure was reflected clearly, filled with unreserved sincerity and deep-seated affection. Zhou Yorong gazed at him, at this man who wielded power and influence, shrouded in enigma, yet now laid bare his heart before her. The icy corner of her heart shattered, transforming into a torrent of warmth that coursed through her being. She suddenly recalled how she had seemingly capitulated to despair after her fall, how he had come to her in his crimson attire upon receiving the edict, how he had taken her hand and placed it upon his heart on their wedding night, and how these recent days had been filled with care, trust, and shared struggles. All of it had been foreshadowed long before. She lowered her eyelids, her lashes fluttering gently. When she lifted them again, the depths of her eyes shimmered with a watery glimmer, imbued with an unprecedented clarity and resolve. That piece of cake was quite sweet, she spoke softly, her voice slightly hoarse, yet every word resounded with clarity. I have always remembered. Su Xuanji's gaze suddenly sharpened, locking onto her intently. I remember the snow was heavy, and the air was frigid. I recall you lying there, nearly buried by the snow. I remember your eyes, dark and bright, gazing at the horse carriage. She paused, meeting his astonished gaze, and continued slowly. I also remember the day of the spring hunt, just before the horses were startled, Zhao Shi's whip accidentally sweeping across the hindquarters of Chasing Moon. In that moment, the sounds of the wind and the water seemed to still. She observed the tumultuous waves surging in his eyes and continued, my choice to forget was not merely a result of a cold heart or careful deliberation. Rather, it was because, after that, I suddenly recalled the defiant eyes in the snow 7 years ago. I thought, if that young man has weathered countless trials to arrive at today, he surely would not wager his entire life for just a piece of cake. If he seeks to marry me, there must be a reason behind it. I wish to see. She gazed at him, her lips curving into a faint yet profoundly genuine smile, as if parting the clouds to reveal the moon. Whether this reason is truly worth it. Su Xuanji stood frozen in place, the tumult within him threatening to engulf him completely. She remembered. She had always remembered. She saw through his words of gratitude, yet still chose to approach him step by step, testing him, seeking to understand him. An indescribable ecstasy, shock, and immense relief seized him in an instant. He suddenly reached out, drawing her tightly into his embrace. The force so great it seemed as if he wished to meld her into his very being. It is worth it, he whispered decisively in her ear, his voice hoarse with emotion. You Rong, in this life and the next, I shall never fail you. Zhou Yorong nestled in his warm embrace, listening to the powerful and rapid heartbeat in his chest, closing her eyes and finally allowing herself to indulge in this long-awaited honesty and excitement. The sun was warm, the river flowed gently, and the grass grew lush with the songs of orioles. All plots, schemes, and dangers appeared to have receded into the distance. At this moment, there was only the embrace of one another and the heartfelt sincerity that had finally become clear. News of Su Xuanji's reinstatement and his involvement in the military supply case spread like a spring breeze throughout the capital overnight. The once desolate Su residence was suddenly bustling with the sound of carriages and visitors. Invitations, congratulations, and gifts poured in like snowflakes. And even as the servants managed the influx, their faces could not hide their radiant pride. Zhou Yorong instructed Yunxiu to handle the mundane affairs with meticulous precision, declining what needed to be declined, archiving what needed to be recorded, maintaining a courteous yet appropriately distant demeanor. She understood well that after this battle, Su Xuanji had gained the favor of the emperor. But it was precisely at this moment that one must tread carefully and speak judiciously, avoiding giving anyone a handle to grasp. That afternoon, as she was reviewing the accounts, the steward came to report that a carriage from the Duke of the State had arrived. Her mother had come in person. Zhou Yorong hurried out to greet her and saw Madame Yu being assisted down from the carriage by a maid. After a few days apart, she seemed to have lost some weight, yet her brows and eyes radiated relief and satisfaction. "Mother, why have you come personally?" Zhou Yorong stepped forward to support her. Madame Yu grasped her hand, scrutinizing her from head to toe. Seeing her in good spirits, her expression calm, she finally let out a long breath. "My child, have you endured your hardships and now tasted the sweetness? I was truly frightened these past few days." As she spoke, her eyes began to redden again. The mother and daughter entered the inner chamber, dismissing those around them. Madame Yu wiped her eyes and sighed. "Your father learned that Tang Sun has been released and reinstated, and that the Wang family is under investigation." He drank 2 cups of wine in a row, proclaiming, "A discerning eye for talent. Heaven has eyes." She patted Zhou Yorong's hand. "Now it seems that your marriage is fortuitously aligned, having found a true gentleman." Zhou Yorong smiled faintly, her heart filled with emotion. When she had fallen from her horse and lost her memory, resolutely severing ties with the Wang family, she had harbored feelings of disillusionment and thoughts of never marrying again, yet unexpectedly, the tide had turned, leading her to Su Xuanji. Speaking of which, this success has much to do with the palace. Madame Yu lowered her voice, her eyes gleaming with a hint of pride. "Your aunt has also lent her support in secret." Zhou Yorong's heart stirred. Indeed, her aunt was the one who had given birth to the second prince, yet remained humble and low-key, the consort Zhou. The consort maintained a close relationship with the empress, her temperament gentle, never involving herself in the palace intrigues, but she held an elevated status due to having borne a prince. Her Highness. Zhou Yorong felt a sudden understanding. Yes, the empress's hints and gifts that day may not have been solely due to the emperor's intentions. They might also carry her aunt's goodwill. "Though your aunt never competes for anything, she is perceptive," Madame Yu continued in a hushed tone. "After the palace banquet that day, she sensed a shift in the atmosphere in the capital and specifically summoned me into the palace to speak, inquiring about your situation in detail and reassuring me to remain at ease. I believe she must have spoken on your behalf in front of the emperor and the empress as well." Madame Yu's tone carried a hint of sentimentality. "Our Zhou family has been noble for generations. Though your father now lives a semi-reclusive life, his influence still lingers. Your aunt may not reveal her strength in the palace, but she has the prince by her side. Now that you are marrying Tang Sun, a man of promise and favor from the emperor, Roma, our Zhou family is like a great tree, with roots intertwined, appearing unassuming yet not easily shaken." Zhou Yorong nodded silently. In the past, she had only felt herself to be the legitimate daughter of the duke's family, enjoying a noble status. Yet she had never before felt so clearly the intricate layers of her family's power. This foundation was not an ostentatious display of authority, but an invisible strength permeating through various relationships, capable of becoming the most reliable support at critical moments. Just as her father's calm strategies, her aunt's silent care in the palace, and Su Xuanji's own capability to break through obstacles intertwined to shield her during that storm, even lending him a helping hand. "Mother, I understand," she spoke softly. "A great tree with deep roots requires careful branches and leaves to thrive." Madame Yu looked at her with satisfaction. "You have become increasingly composed, just like your aunt. That is excellent." As they spoke, voices from the outside announced the arrival of the maidservants paying their respects. Su Xuanji had returned. He came back early that day, and upon seeing Madame Yu, he immediately approached and respectfully bowed. Your humble son-in-law pays his respects to you, esteemed mother-in-law. Madame Yu regarded him with growing satisfaction and quickly urged him to rise. Get up, there is no need for excessive formalities among family. Is your official business proceeding smoothly? Thank you for your concern, esteemed mother-in-law. Everything is proceeding smoothly. Su Xuanji replied warmly, his gaze shifting to Zhou Yurong, naturally asking, what were you discussing? Zhou Yurong smiled lightly.
Mother was just speaking of my aunt.
Su Xuanji's eyes flickered with understanding as he nodded. Indeed, we owe much to the consort's maneuvering in the palace. Today, when I met the emperor, he specifically inquired about you, stating that the consort praised you to the empress the other day, calling you serene and graceful, very much in line with the Zhou family's virtues. His words were calm, yet revealed substantial information. The emperor's direct inquiry demonstrated his concern for Zhou Yurong, while the consort's praise silently brought Zhou Yurong and her family closer to the emperor and empress. Madame Yu's face glowed with joy as she repeated, Her Highness has overpraised her. Ronger is still young and needs more experience. After some light conversation, Madame Yu noticed the tacit understanding between the young couple in their exchanged glances, and feeling content, she rose to take her leave, reminding Zhou Yurong to rest well and soon bear children for the Su family. Once her mother had departed, only the two of them remained in the room. Su Xuanji naturally moved to Zhou Yurong's side, taking her hand and gently brushing his fingers over the faint red marks from the tea burn on that day, now faded significantly. Are you feeling any discomfort today? I am perfectly fine now. Zhou Yurong shook her head, looking up at him. What else did the emperor say today? Su Xuanji, aware of her concerns, led her to sit on the couch by the window. The sunlight streamed through the lattice, enveloping them in a warm embrace. His Majesty has commanded the 3 departments to expedite the examination of the case involving Li Chongshan and the Wang residence. The discrepancies in the grain transport are currently being rectified, implicating numerous officials. However, the core evidence is irrefutable, leaving them no room for denial. As for the matter of collusion, he spoke with a slight gravity. The divine emblem of Dirong and the reports from the border troops are pivotal. His Majesty is exceedingly enraged and has dispatched trusted confidants to investigate the movements of the Dirong remnants, determined to eradicate this threat entirely. He paused, casting a softened gaze upon her. His Majesty also inquired what reward I might desire. Zhou Yurong was momentarily taken aback. What was your response? Su Xuanji offered a gentle smile. Tightening his grip on her hand, I conveyed to His Majesty that I am profoundly grateful for the imperial favor that has granted me vindication. I seek nothing more, save for the tranquility of days spent with my lady, while continuing to serve the court. He articulated days spent with my lady with clarity and solemnity. A tremor coursed through Zhou Yurong's heart. She lowered her eyes, feeling a gentle warmth rise to her ears. His Majesty chuckled heartily upon hearing this. Exclaiming that he was unaware that the esteemed Su was such a romantic, Su Xuanji remarked, a hint of helpless amusement in his tone. He then adopted a more serious demeanor. However, although His Majesty has not explicitly stated it, it is inevitable that I shall be promoted once this matter is resolved. Yet for now, we must first ensure the case is handled properly. He regarded her with earnest eyes. Yurong, once this affair is concluded, I wish for you to accompany me back to my hometown in Shuzhou. The scenery there is vastly different from that of the capital. I believe you would find it delightful. His sudden mention of the future, imbued with the ordinary yearning of a married couple, stirred a warm current within Zhou Yurong. She lifted her gaze to meet his gentle eyes and nodded softly. Very well. The sunlight was tranquil, and time seemed to stretch into an enduring serenity in that moment. A few days later, a sudden piece of news shattered the surface calm. Zhao Si, confined within the Wang residence, had attempted to hang himself last night. Though the guards discovered him in time and saved his life, he remained unconscious, his condition perilous. As the news reached the Su residence, Zhou Yurong was arranging flowers. Upon hearing it, a branch of magnolia in her hand snapped with a resounding crack, falling upon the table. She stared blankly at the broken branch, her heart awash with an indescribable sentiment. Shock? Sorrow? Or perhaps a faint tinge of melancholy. That young lord, once resplendent in his finery and betrothed to her, had ultimately inscribed a tragic and ambiguous epilogue to this grand upheaval in such a manner. Suddenly, She recalled a long-ago spring day when Jiaoxi had gifted her a beautiful little red horse, his bright smile illuminating the moment as he said, "You're wrong. Once you have learned, we shall ride together to see the flowers on Nanshan." Time has flown, the red horse has long since aged, and the flowers on Nanshan have bloomed and withered. As for them, they had long since embarked on entirely divergent paths. With a gentle sweep, she brushed the broken branch from the table and addressed the steward who had come to report. "Understood. There is no need to inform the master of this matter. Those bygone days, both good and bad, ought to be scattered with the wind." Now, her gaze was set solely upon the future that included him. The end of the text. Thank you for listening. We shall meet again in the next story.